My children sold my house while I was in the hospital. They forgot one signature. The first sign was my key. I stood on my own front porch with a paper hospital bracelet still stuck to my wrist, trying the key again and again like maybe my hands were too weak and I was doing it wrong. It wouldn't turn. At first, I thought the lock was jammed. Then I noticed the little scrape marks around the deadbolt. It was a new lock. I just stood there, still in my discharge sweater, my overnight bag hanging from my shoulder, staring at my own front door like it belonged to somebody else. Before I could knock, the door opened. My daughter Kendra stepped out and closed it behind her so fast it almost hit me in the face. He said, already sounding annoyed, "Why are you here?" I actually laughed because I thought she was joking. "Why am I here?" I said. "Because I live here." She didn't laugh. She glanced over her shoulder, then lowered her voice. "Can you please not do this right now?" And that was the exact moment my stomach dropped. Not because of the new lock, not because my daughter was standing between me and my own living room, but because of the tone in her voice. It was the tone people use when they want a scene to stay quiet. The tone people use when they've already done something ugly and now they need you to act reasonable about it. I looked past her shoulder through the gap before she pulled the door tighter. My hallway table was gone. So was the lamp my husband bought me on our 10th anniversary. There were cardboard boxes stacked near the stairs. And in my living room, a man I had never seen before was holding a tape measure. I turned back to her slowly. "Kendra," I said, very calm, "who is in my house?" She pressed her lips together. Then she said the sentence I will never forget as long as I live. "Mom, please don't embarrass us in front of the buyers." Buyers. Not guests, not movers, not friends. Buyers. I think something in my face must have changed, because she reached for my arm and suddenly tried to sound gentle. "Mom, listen. We were going to explain everything when you were stronger." I pulled my arm away. My son Ryan came walking up from the driveway at that exact second, holding his phone and a folder. He froze when he saw me standing there. For 1 second, nobody said anything. Then Ryan gave me that same fake soft voice. "You weren't supposed to come home today." I looked at both of them. My own children. The ones I raised. The ones I stayed up nights for. The ones I fed before I fed myself some years. And I said the only thing I could say. "What did you do?" That was 3 weeks after I went into the hospital. 3 weeks. That was all it took. I'm 68 years old, widowed for 9 years. I had 2 children, Kendra and Ryan, and for most of my life I would have told anybody I was lucky. Not because my life was easy. It wasn't. My husband, Daniel, worked long hours at the plant until his back gave out. I cleaned offices at night for years, then later worked the front desk at a title company. Not glamorous work, but honest. We never had extra money floating around. What we had, we held on to. What we built slowly. That house wasn't some giant mansion. It was a plain 3-bedroom brick house with squeaky floors, a tiny dining room, and a pecan tree that dropped branches every storm season. But it was ours. Daniel and I bought it when Kendra was 5 and Ryan was 3. I planted roses under the front window. Daniel built the back deck by hand and cursed the whole time. We measured the kids against the pantry wall with pencil marks. I sat at that kitchen table helping with homework, paying bills, packing lunches, crying quietly after Daniel died so they wouldn't hear me through the phone. That house held my whole life, and my children knew that, which is why I keep going back to the beginning and asking myself when exactly they stopped seeing it as my home and started seeing it as money. Maybe it started after Daniel died. Or maybe it was always there, and grief just made me slow enough to miss it. At first, they were wonderful. That's the truth. They came over more often after the funeral. Ryan mowed the lawn. Kendra brought casseroles. They both checked in on me. "Call us if you need anything, Mom." And I believed them. Maybe that was my first mistake. Maybe being a mother means you keep believing a little longer than you should. Over the years, life got expensive for both of them. Ryan started one business after another, each one almost taking off. Kendra had 2 kids, a husband who spent like money grew back, and a talent for turning every emergency into my emergency. I helped when I could. School clothes, car repairs, a security deposit 1 year, a dental bill. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself family helps family. But there's this difference between helping and being quietly emptied out, and I didn't see that difference until much later. Still, I never thought they would do this. Even when things started feeling off, I told myself I was imagining it. About 6 months before I went to the hospital, Kendra started bringing up downsizing. At first, she made it sound casual. This house is a lot for one person, Mom. Then, a few weeks later, if you sold this place, you could get a cute condo and actually enjoy life. Then, the market's good right now. Always light. Always smiling. Always like she was doing me a favor. Ryan joined in later. He stood in my kitchen one Sunday afternoon and looked around like he was appraising the place. "You're sitting on a lot of equity here," he said. I remember turning from the sink and staring at him. "Is that what this is now?" I asked. "Equity?" he laughed. "Mom, don't be dramatic. I'm just saying you have options." Options. That word started coming up a lot. Then came the little things. One afternoon, I found Ryan going through the file drawer in my desk. He jumped when I walked in. Looking for stamps, he said too fast. Another time, Kendra asked where I kept the deed. Not insurance papers, not the warranty for the washing machine. The deed. I looked at her and said, "Why?" She waved a hand like it was no big deal. "In case something happens, we should know where your important stuff is." I remember a cold feeling going through me then. Not fear exactly, just a warning. Like when the air changes before a storm. I started noticing how often they whispered together, how conversations stopped when I entered the room, how Kendra kept asking whether I had updated my will, how Ryan started talking about long-term plans. Then there were the late-night texts. I didn't snoop. I never was that kind of mother. But one night, Ryan left his phone on the counter when he went outside, and it lit up. Kendra's name. The message preview said, "She can't stay there alone much longer. We need to move before she changes her mind." I read it once, then again. By the time Ryan came back inside, I had already stepped away. I wish I could say I confronted him right then. I didn't. I wanted a simple answer so badly that I kept giving them chances to give me one. "Are you two planning something?" I asked Kendra the next day. She gave me a tired smile. "Mom, not everything is about you." That hurt more than I expected. A week later, I found a realtor's business card on my kitchen counter, not in the trash, not dropped by accident, sitting there, face up. I picked it up and waited until Ryan came by. "What is this?" He barely looked at it. "Oh, Kendra must left it. Why would Kendra have a realtor in my house?" He sighed like I was exhausting him. "Because we're worried about you." That was how it always went. Every question became proof that I was difficult. Every concern I had became a sign that I was stressed or confused. If I got upset, they exchanged looks. If I got quiet, they acted relieved. Then I got sick. It started with what I thought was the flu. I was tired all the time. Then came the cough, then the fever, then a fall in the bathroom when I got dizzy trying to stand up. Kendra found me because she had stopped by just to check in. At the time, I thought it was lucky. Now I think about how fast she got there and I wonder. The hospital said pneumonia and dehydration. Nothing glamorous. Just age, weakness, infection, bad timing. But once I was admitted, my children moved into every open space around me like they had been waiting for a starting bell. They took my purse for safekeeping. They took my house keys so nothing would get lost. Ryan said he'd collect my mail. Kendra said she'd water my plants. I was tired, embarrassed, and honestly too sick to fight much. The first few days in the hospital are foggy, machines beeping, dry air, that awful taste in your mouth, nurses coming in every few hours, my children at the foot of the bed speaking in low voices whenever they thought I was asleep. One afternoon I woke up and Kendra was holding a stack of papers. "Just routine stuff, Mom." I pushed my glasses on and reached for them. She pulled them back a little. "It's just temporary authorization so we can help with bills and decisions while you recover." I held out my hand. "Let me read it." Her smile tightened. "Mom, you're exhausted," I said. "Let me read it." Ryan stepped in then. "Why are you making everything hard?" I looked at both of them, and something sharp woke up inside me. Not strength exactly. Not yet. Just instinct. "I'm not signing anything I don't read," I said. Kendra actually rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes at me while I was in a hospital bed. She dropped the papers on the tray table harder than she needed to. "Fine. They were power of attorney papers, not temporary bill help. Broad power. Way too broad." My hands shook so badly I had to read some lines twice. When I looked up, Ryan was staring out the window like he couldn't even bother pretending anymore. I handed the papers back. "No." Kendra laughed once, without humor. "You really think we're trying to steal from you?" The word steal hung in the air. Nobody had said it until then. That alone told me a lot. I think, I said carefully, that if you want my signature, you don't get to rush me. Ryan turned around. We're trying to help you. You can't even get to the bathroom alone right now. That one landed. Because it was true. And they knew exactly how to use truth when it served them. The next few days got colder. They still visited. They still brought me lip balm and fresh socks and magazines I didn't read. But now there was edge under every kindness. Kendra asked the nurse about rehab facilities right in front of me like I wasn't there. Ryan asked the doctor, is it safe for her to live alone after this? Not mom, her. The nurses loved them. Of course they did. My children looked concerned, organized, involved. One nurse smiled at me and said, you're lucky. Some patients don't have family this attentive. I smiled back because what else do you do? You don't say, actually I think they're circling me like vultures. You don't say, my daughter keeps asking where the extra keys are. You don't say, my son asked whether the mortgage was fully paid off when he thought I was sleeping. So I stayed quiet and watched. That's something people forget about quiet women. We watch. When they moved me to rehab for another week, things got worse. Kendra had already packed a bag from my house before I even asked for anything. That meant she had been inside, going through drawers, choosing what I would and wouldn't need. She brought me 2 nightgowns, my slippers, and none of my personal papers. No address book. No checkbook, no little notebook where I wrote down every important number. When I asked for my phone charger, she said she forgot. When I asked Ryan to bring me my mail, he said there was nothing important. That was a lie. I knew it was a lie because I had 3 things due that week, and one of them was my property tax notice. Then my neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, called the rehab center. Kendra had apparently forgotten that Mrs. Alvarez still had the direct number from when Daniel was sick years ago. The nurse handed me the phone and said, you have a lovely friend. Mrs. Alvarez did not sound lovely. She sounded confused. Evelyn, she said, why are there people taking pictures of your house? I sat up so fast my back hurt. What? I looked out this morning and there was a woman on your porch with a camera. Then later a man came with a sign. I thought maybe you knew. A sign. I went cold all over. What kind of sign? There was a pause. Then she said softly, a real estate sign. I hung up and called Kendra immediately. She answered on the 4th ring. Hi, Mom. I'm in the middle of, why is there a real estate sign at my house? Silence. Then a long sigh. We were going to talk to you. No. Talk now. Mom, please don't raise your blood pressure. That sentence made me so angry I actually went calm. The kind of calm that feels like glass. Take the sign down, I said. Kendra's voice changed then. Harder. Sharper. You are not well enough to go back there. That is my home. You can't manage it anymore. You do not get to decide that. We already did. We, not the doctor. Not me. We. I heard Ryan in the background ask, is she freaking out? Kendra covered the phone but not well enough. Then she came back. Mom, listen carefully. We found a buyer who can close fast. This is what's best. I almost couldn't speak. Did you list my house without my permission? Again, that awful little pause. Mom, stop making this ugly. Ugly. As if the ugly part was my reaction. Not what they had done. I ended the call because if I hadn't, I would have screamed. I sat on the edge of that rehab bed shaking so hard the room blurred. The aide came in and asked if I was all right, and I heard myself say, I'm fine. I was not fine. I called Ryan next. He let it ring out. I called again and again. When he finally answered, he sounded irritated. What? What have you done? He blew air into the phone. Mom, Kendra's right. This is happening. You need care. The house can pay for a decent place. A decent place? Yes, like assisted living. Somewhere safe. Did I say I wanted assisted living? No, because you're being stubborn. I shut my eyes. Take it off the market. No, just like that. No. I don't know if there is a worse sound than your child saying no to you in a matter that should not even belong to them. Ryan, I said, quieter now. If you do this, you won't be able to undo it. He gave a short laugh. Actually, once it closes, it'll be pretty hard to undo. Then he hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and went over every small strange thing from the past few months. Every question, every whisper, every time they tried to make me feel old, weak, forgetful, difficult. It all lined up now. Not concern, preparation. The next morning, Kendra's husband, Brent, came to visit instead of Kendra. That alone told me she didn't want to face me. Brent had always acted polite, but he was the kind of man who could insult you while smiling. He sat down with a coffee like this was a normal chat. Kendra's upset, he said. I laughed at that. Is she? He leaned forward. Look, Evelyn, you need to be realistic. The kids are under a lot of pressure. The kids? They're trying to do the right thing. By selling my house behind my back? He spread his hands. You can't live there alone. Funny. I was doing it just fine before I got pneumonia. He gave me a look I absolutely hated. One health scare changes things. There it was again. That same script. Like they had all practiced it. I looked him straight in the eye. Did you know? He didn't answer fast enough. That was answer enough. By then, some of the extended family had heard a twisted version of the story. My sister-in-law called and gently suggested I trust the children. A cousin texted Kendra during one of her visits, and I heard her say, "Mom's not thinking clearly. Not thinking clearly." That spread fast. It always does. Especially when you're older and people are already halfway ready to believe you've become a problem to be managed. But here's what my children forgot. Before I stayed home with them full time, before the cleaning jobs, before all the casseroles and school lunches and soccer rides, I worked at a title company for almost 14 years. I knew what deeds look like. I knew what legal signatures mattered. I knew exactly how many people commit fraud because they think older women don't understand paperwork. And I also knew one more thing my children did not know. A thing I had done quietly after Daniel died, the same year Ryan asked me if wills could be challenged. I had not told them. I had not told anyone except one person. At the time, I did it because something in me felt uneasy. Back then, I felt guilty for even thinking that way. Now I thanked God I had listened to myself. 2 days later, the rehab center discharged me. Earlier than Kendra expected, I think. She wanted me transferred directly to some assisted living place she had found. I refused. She argued with the social worker in the hallway like I was a package that had been delivered to the wrong address. But I kept saying the same thing. I am going home. When we pulled into my street, I saw the sign before the car even stopped. Sold. Big red letters across the corner. My chest felt tight, but I kept my face blank. Kendra kept talking from the driver's seat. "Mom, please just listen before you react." I opened the door and got out without answering. That led to the porch, the new lock, the man with the tape measure, Kendra blocking the doorway, Ryan coming up with the folder. And then, after I asked what they had done, Ryan did something that almost made me admire how stupid confidence can make a person. He held up the folder and said, "Everything is legal. Everything is legal." I looked at the folder. He must have seen something in my face because he added, "We have authority." "Show me," I said. Kendra snapped, "Mom, show me." The buyer and his wife had gone still inside the living room. Even the realtor was pretending not to listen while clearly listening to every word. Ryan hesitated. Then, probably because he wanted to prove me wrong in front of everybody, he opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers. Listing agreement, purchase contract, disclosure forms, power of attorney paperwork, notarized copies, all the things they thought made them smart. He held them like a shield. I took the papers. My hands were steady now. Steadier than they had been in weeks. I flipped through them right there on the porch while my children stood in silence. The realtor finally spoke up. "Mom, perhaps this is a family matter that—" "It is," I said without looking at her. Then I reached the title packet, and there it was, exactly where I knew it would be. Exactly where their greed had made them careless. One missing signature line, not mine, the other one, the one they never knew existed. For the first time since the hospital, I smiled. A small smile. Nothing dramatic, just enough for Ryan to notice. He frowned. "What?" I lifted my eyes to him, and in the calmest voice I have ever used in my life, I said, "Okay." Kendra blinked. "What do you mean, okay?" I handed the papers back. Okay. Ryan looked suspicious now. The realtor looked confused. The buyers looked nervous. I picked up my overnight bag from the porch, turned, and walked back toward the driveway. "Mom," Kendra called after me, "where are you going?" I stopped beside Ryan's car and looked back at the house. At my roses, at my front window, at the sold sign planted in my grass like an insult. Then I looked at my children. "The same place I should have gone first," I said. And I took my phone out of my purse, because the one thing my children forgot while they were busy selling my life out from under me was one signature. And the one person attached to it had just answered my call. Her name was Gloria Benton. When she answered, I didn't even say hello. I just said, "They sold the house." There was half a second of silence. Then her voice changed in a way I had only heard a few times in all the years I knew her. Calm, sharp, immediate. "Are you on the property right now?" "Yes." "Are the buyers there?" "Yes." "Is the realtor there?" "Yes." "Good," she said. "Do not argue. Do not sign anything. Do not step back inside that house. I'm 10 minutes away." Then she hung up. I stood there with my phone in my hand, my overnight bag at my feet, and both of my children staring at me like they were trying to read my face. Kendra folded her arms. "Who did you call?" I looked at her. "Somebody you should have asked about before you tried to sell my house." Ryan gave a little laugh, but it sounded forced. "Mom, stop being dramatic. This isn't a movie." "No," I said. "It's paperwork. That's worse. The realtor finally stepped onto the porch. She was maybe in her 40s, polished, careful, the kind of woman who smiled with only the top half of her face. "Mrs. Marsh?" she said. "I'm sure this is upsetting, but everything can be clarified." "It will be," I said. The buyer and his wife were standing just inside the living room now, not pretending anymore. The husband still had the tape measure in his hand, but he wasn't smiling like he had been before. People get very quiet when they realize they may have walked into somebody else's disaster. Mrs. Alvarez's front door opened across the street. She lifted her hand once. That was enough. I picked up my bag and walked over to her house without looking back. Behind me, I heard Kendra say, "Mom. Mom, don't do this." I kept walking. Mrs. Alvarez had already opened the screen door by the time I reached her porch. "Come inside, see," she said. I stepped in and sat at her little kitchen table, the same one where we had drunk coffee for almost 20 years while pretending we were only going to chat for 15 minutes. She pushed a glass of water toward me. Her eyes were wide. "What is happening?" I let out one slow breath. My children tried to steal my house. She put one hand over her mouth. Then, because she is who she is, she said, "Do you want coffee?" I laughed so suddenly it almost turned into crying. "Yes," I said, "I want coffee." Through her lace curtain, we could see my front yard. The sold sign, Ryan pacing, Kendra talking too fast with her hands, the realtor on her phone, the buyers standing close together, and then Gloria's black sedan turned onto the street. If you had seen her from a distance, you might not have noticed anything dramatic about her. 72 years old, silver hair cut neat to the chin, straight posture, dark blue blazer, low heels. But Gloria had spent 30 years making bad people nervous in closing rooms, not because she yelled, because she didn't. She used to be the senior closing officer at the title company where I worked. Later, when most people her age were talking about retirement cruises, she went to law school at night just because she could. That was Gloria. Orderly, patient, hard to fool. And after Daniel died, when Ryan started asking strange questions about probate and whether wills could be challenged, Gloria was the one who looked at me over her reading glasses and said, "Evelyn, if your instincts are making noise, don't insult them." That was the year she helped me set up the trust. Not because I was rich, not because there was some great family fortune hiding in the walls, but because the house was everything. The house, my savings, and the small life I had built with Daniel. Nothing fancy, just mine. And Gloria had one rule. "If this property is ever sold," she told me, tapping the paper both trustees sign. Not one, both. I had signed. So had she. I never told my children. Not because I wanted secrets, because I wanted safety. Across the street, I watched Gloria step out of her car, close the door, and walk straight up my front path like she belonged there. In a way, she did. Kendra met her halfway. I couldn't hear what was said at first, but I saw Kendra try that soft, fake smile she used when she wanted to seem reasonable. Gloria didn't even slow down. She went right past her and onto my porch. The realtor stuck out a hand. Gloria ignored it. Then she said something that made the realtor's face go still. A second later, Ryan moved closer. He started talking fast. Even from across the street, I could see the irritation in his body, the chin up, the quick gestures, the way he always looked offended when reality refused to cooperate with him. Then Gloria held out her hand. The folder. Ryan hesitated. She held the hand there. Finally, he gave it to her. Mrs. Alvarez slid my coffee toward me and whispered, "Who is that woman?" I took a sip. "My insurance policy," I said. Gloria went through the papers right there on the porch. No rush, no drama. Page after page. Twice she asked the realtor something. Twice the realtor answered. Then Gloria lifted one sheet, said something very short, and the buyer's wife took a step backward like she had been physically touched. The husband lowered the tape measure and stared at Ryan. A minute later, the realtor grabbed her phone and walked off the porch, already dialing. Ryan's shoulders changed then. That was the moment. That tiny shift people make when they suddenly realize the floor they were standing on wasn't floor at all. Kendra looked across the street at me. Really looked at me. And I think for the first time since this started, she understood I was not confused. I was not helpless. I was waiting. Gloria raised one arm and motioned toward Mrs. Alvarez's house. Me. I stood up slowly. Mrs. Alvarez said, "Do you want me to come?" I smiled at her. "Oh, I'd love that," I said, "but no, I think I need them to hear me clearly." The walk back across the street felt longer than it was. My knees still hurt from being sick. My legs still felt weak. But by then, I was running on something stronger than strength, by anger, by humiliation, by the simple fact that I had been right. When I stepped onto the porch, nobody spoke for a second. Then Gloria handed me a paper-clipped set of documents. "Keep these," she said. I looked down, a copy of my trust, a certified copy of the deed, the recorded amendment, the pages with both names, mine and Gloria's. Ryan stared at them. "What is that?" Gloria answered before I could. "That," she said, "is the reason you do not own this house, cannot sell this house, and may have just involved yourselves in elder financial abuse and attempted real estate fraud." Kendra went pale. "Fraud?" she said. "That's insane." "No," Gloria said. "What's insane is bringing buyers to a house you had no authority to transfer." Ryan recovered faster. He always did. He straightened up and said, "We have power of attorney." Gloria turned to him. "Do you?" He pointed at the folder. "There are notarized documents right there." "Yes," Gloria said. "I saw them." The way she said it made the hair rise on my arms. Ryan's jaw tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means," Gloria said, still perfectly calm, "that Mrs. Marsh refused to sign a power of attorney in the hospital. I know that because she called me the same day and told me. So now we have to ask how a fully executed document appeared afterward, why a transaction was initiated on trust property without co-trustee approval, and why the listing agent was not given the trust instrument before marketing began." The realtor looked like she wanted to disappear into the siding. "I was told," she said carefully, "that the children had authority and that their mother was transitioning to long-term care." I looked at her. "And you never verified ownership before listing my home?" She swallowed. "We relied on the documentation presented," Gloria said, "which was a mistake." The buyer finally spoke. "Hold on," he said. "Are you saying this sale is dead?" Gloria turned to him and her tone softened by a degree. "I'm saying you should not spend one more dollar on inspections, movers, or anything else related to this property." He looked at his wife. His wife looked at me. "I'm so sorry," she said. And the thing is, I believed her. They weren't villains. They were just strangers who thought they were buying a house and had accidentally walked into a family collapse. Ryan took a step toward me. "Mom, say something." So I did. I looked right at him and said, "Get off my porch." He blinked. "What?" "You heard me." Kendra let out a shaky breath. "Mom, please. We were trying to help." I laughed, and there was no warmth in it. "You changed the locks on me." Her eyes filled instantly, which would have affected me more if I hadn't watched her weaponize tears since she was 16. "We thought you'd overreact. You sold my house while I was in rehab. You couldn't live here alone. That was never your decision." Brent came walking up from the driveway then, phone in hand, probably because someone had called him to say things were going bad. He looked from Gloria to the buyers to me. "What's going on?" Gloria turned toward him. "And you are?" "Kendra's husband." "Good," Gloria said. "Then you may also want legal counsel." That shut him up. Ryan was getting louder now, the way men do when facts stop helping them. "This is ridiculous. We're her kids. We were trying to protect her." "From what?" I asked. "Ownership?" He opened his mouth. Closed it. I stepped closer. "Not much. Just enough. You didn't come to me. You went around me. Because you never listen." "No," I said. "Because I was easier to move once I was in a hospital bed." That landed. Even Brent looked away. Kendra started crying for real then. Not the pretty crying. The ugly kind. The kind where people's mouths shake because even they can hear how bad it sounds. "Mom," she whispered. "We were drowning." There it was. Not concern. Not safety. Money. I stared at her. "How much?" She wiped at her face. "Please don't do this here." "How much?" Ryan snapped. "Does it matter?" "Yes," I said. "It matters whether you tried to steal my house for one problem or six." He said nothing. That told me enough. Gloria put a hand lightly on my arm, not to calm me down, to remind me I did not need to keep standing in the fire if I didn't want to. So I looked at the buyers and said, "I'm sorry for your trouble." I looked at the realtor and said, "Any future communication goes through Gloria." Then I turned back to my children. "You two will return every key, every document, every bank paper, every item removed from this house. Today. If one photograph is missing, I report everything." Ryan scoffed, but it was weak now. "You'd call the police on your own son?" I held his eyes. Yes, and for the first time all afternoon, he believed me. Things moved quickly after that. The buyers left first. The wife gave me one small nod before getting in the car. The husband didn't say anything. He just looked angry, which made sense. They had been lied to too. The realtor nearly tripped over herself, promising her broker would be in touch. Gloria made 3 calls from my porch in less than 10 minutes. Her old title voice came right back, like she had only stepped away for lunch. One to the broker, one to the title office, one to a lawyer friend who handled elder exploitation cases. By the time Brent started muttering that everybody needed to calm down, 2 things had already happened. The sale had been frozen, and the story had stopped being mine to prove. That was the best part. My children had expected emotion. What they got was a paper trail. I went back into my house that evening with Gloria beside me and Mrs. Alvarez behind us carrying soup she insisted I needed. The smell hit me first. Not bad. Just wrong. Somebody else's air. Boxes had been packed in my living room. My photo albums were stacked near the front closet. Half my kitchen had been wrapped in newspaper like I was already dead and my life was being sorted. I had to sit down. Not because I was weak. Because grief has weight. Gloria waited. She didn't rush me. She never did. Finally, I said, I want the locks changed tonight. They will be, she said. I want my accounts checked. They already are. I want copies of everything. You'll have them. Then I looked around at my own home, half boxed up by my own children, and I said the truth I had been fighting all day. I don't know how to come back from this. Gloria pulled out a chair and sat across from me. Maybe you don't come back, she said. Maybe you go forward. I cried then, really cried. Not loud, not dramatic. Just years of love and trust and excuse-making finally breaking open. Mrs. Alvarez pretended not to notice and banged around in my kitchen heating soup that did not need heating. That night, a locksmith came. The next morning, a different attorney came. By the end of the week, I learned more than I wanted to know. The power of attorney they tried to use had indeed been created after I refused to sign in the hospital. The signature was close enough to mine to fool somebody careless, but not close enough to survive actual review. The notary? A friend of Brent's cousin, of course. The broker claimed ignorance. The title office backed away so fast they nearly left skid marks. And the minute words like fraud, exploitation, and criminal exposure entered the room, everybody who had been just trying to help suddenly became very interested in blaming one another. Ryan said Kendra pushed it. Kendra said Ryan handled the paperwork. Brent said he thought it was all authorized. Nobody I noticed said we were wrong because it was wrong. Only I thought I cooperated fully. That was my revenge. Not screaming, not throwing their things on the lawn, not posting family business online. Just telling the truth on record every single time. I gave statements, I handed over copies, I answered questions, and I stopped protecting people who had not protected me. That part mattered more than I expected. For years, even as adults, my children had counted on one thing. That I would soften the edges for them, that I would explain them kindly, that I would keep the family picture neat. I didn't. Not anymore. When my sister-in-law called again and said, I'm sure they didn't mean, I cut her off. They changed the locks on me while I was in medical care. Silence. Then quietly, when my cousin texted, maybe there was just a misunderstanding, I sent one photo back, the Solj sign in my yard. No caption, nothing else. Funny how fast doubt dries up when facts arrive. About 2 weeks later, Kendra asked if she could come by alone. Gloria told me I didn't have to say yes. I knew that. Still, I said yes. Not because I was ready to forgive her, because I wanted to hear what she sounded like without Ryan beside her. She came in looking smaller than I had ever seen her. No full makeup. No fast talking. No confidence. Just a tired woman with swollen eyes standing in my living room where the boxes had finally been cleared out. I didn't offer coffee. I didn't offer comfort. I sat in Daniel's old chair and waited. She looked at the floor. I'm sorry. I said nothing. Tears filled her eyes again. We really were in trouble. I know. Brent had debt. Ryan did too. They kept saying the house was sitting there and you'd need care anyway, and I let them make it sound normal. I nodded once. That's the part that should scare you. She looked up. What? That someone can say something evil often enough that it starts sounding reasonable. She started crying. I never thought it would go this far. I looked around the room. The locks suggest otherwise. That made her flinch. Good. Sometimes flinching is the only honest reaction left. She sat down slowly on the edge of the sofa. Are you going to press charges? There it was. The real question. Not are you okay? Not can I fix this? What happens to me now? I folded my hands in my lap. I am going to tell the truth, I said, and then I am going to live with whatever follows. I suggest you do the same, she cried harder. For a moment, I almost reached for her, that old reflex. Mother first, woman second. But I didn't, because that reflex is how I got here. Ryan never came alone, he called. Twice. The first time he sounded angry. The second time tired. By the third voicemail, he finally sounded ashamed. I saved them all and did not answer. A month later, after the dust settled enough for me to breathe again, I made my own changes. Real ones, not secret ones. Legal ones, careful ones. I updated everything. My trust. My medical directives, my bank access, my will. I added protections I should have added years ago. And then I made the decision that surprised everyone except Gloria. I did not leave everything to my children. Not anymore. A portion will go to my grandchildren directly, protected until they are old enough to understand what money can do to people. A portion will go to a housing charity for older women leaving unsafe situations. Because family isn't always where danger comes from, but sometimes it is. And the house? I kept it. Of course I did. For now, at least. I had the pantry wall repainted around the pencil height marks but left every line showing through faintly underneath if the light hits it right. I had the locks replaced, the flowers redone, and the deck repaired where a board had started to split. I slept in my own bed again. The first night, I woke up at 3 in the morning and walked room to room just touching things. The kitchen counter, the hallway wall, Daniel's old bookcase, the window above the sink. Not because I was checking ownership, because I was reminding myself I was still here. People ask if I ever forgave them. That depends what you think forgiveness is. If forgiveness means pretending it wasn't that bad, no. If it means inviting them over for Sunday dinner so we can all act normal, absolutely not. If it means I stopped wanting my pain to run the rest of my life, then yes, eventually, quietly, for me. But forgiveness did not come with restored access. That's the part many people don't understand. Love without boundaries is how some people eat you alive. Kendra still sends birthday texts. Ryan sent flowers once. No card. I thanked neither of them. Not to be cruel. To be clear, there is a difference. The strangest part of all this is that losing the illusion hurt more than almost losing the house. The house was wood and brick and paperwork. My children were supposed to be my safe place. That's what cracked. That's what I had to bury. And yet, there was something else on the other side of that grief. Something I had forgotten I still owned. Myself. Not as their mother, not as the widow, not as the woman people speak over because her hair is gray and her voice is soft. Just me. A woman who noticed. A woman who remembered. A woman who signed the right papers years ago because some part of her knew one day she might need proof that she belonged to her own life. I used to think strength looked loud, a slammed door, a dramatic speech, a perfect revenge. But now I think strength often looks boring from the outside. Copies in a folder, a changed lock, a calm voice saying no. A woman crossing the street with her hospital bag in one hand and the truth in the other. If there's a lesson in any of this, it's not that strangers are dangerous. It's that betrayal usually arrives wearing a familiar face, asking you to trust it one more time. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is disappoint the people who were counting on your silence. Story 2. Everyone thought I was the cleaning lady. Until the meeting started, I had just walked into the lobby of the building where I've worked for the last 3 years when I heard it. No, she's with the cleaning crew. She can't go up yet. The floors aren't done on 7. The voice belonged to Priya from reception. The woman standing next to her was Linda, our head of operations, and both of them were looking straight at me. I was holding my coffee, I was wearing a black dress, I had my badge clipped to my bag, but because my badge was on my bag and not on my shirt, because I had come in through the side door that morning, because my car was in the shop, because my hair was in a low bun, they looked at me and decided I was the help. I'm Maya, I said, smiling a little, from finance. Priya blinked. Linda looked at my badge, then at my face, then at my badge again. Oh, Priya said. Oh, sorry, Maya, I didn't recognize you. Linda didn't say sorry. She just sighed like I had wasted her time. Then she leaned in and whispered, not even quietly, maybe pin your badge on your shirt next time, honey. We can't have security issues. I nodded. I said okay, and I walked to the elevator with the heaviest heart I'd had in a long time. Because the thing was, I wasn't just from finance. I was Maya Carter. And in about 4 hours, that whole building was going to learn who I really was. But nobody in that lobby knew that yet. Nobody in my whole life knew that yet. And the man I was about to marry that fall, my fiancé, Marcus, he definitely didn't know that yet either. Let me back up. Marcus and I had been together for 4 years. We met at a friend of a friend birthday party. He had this smile that made everyone in the room feel warm. He brought me soup when I was sick. He remembered my mom's birthday. He told me on our second date that I was the most underestimated person he'd ever met. I believed him. I believed all of it. We moved into a small apartment downtown. He worked at a growing tech company. I worked at a smaller firm handling accounts. We split the rent. We planned a wedding. We picked a venue in October, all amber leaves and string lights. My mom cried when I showed her the venue photos. For 3 years, Marcus was perfect. Then things started to change, the way things always do right before everything falls apart. He started coming home later. Team dinners, he said. Quarterly push. You know how it is. He worked at Bennett Tech, a sleek, mid-sized company downtown. They were always pushing something. He was always on a call. He started eating dinner standing up, staring at his phone. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched. His phone used to sit face up on the counter when he showered. Then it started going face down. Then it started going into his pocket, then into the other room. Whose jacket is this? I asked one night, pulling a black wool coat out of the closet. It was too small for him. Too fitted, smelled like jasmine perfume. A client's, he said, not even looking up from his laptop. I left it at the office. Someone borrowed it home. You don't see clients at home, Marcus. I do now. Hybrid work. You know this. I noticed other things. He stopped saying we. He started saying I. He talked about work promotions like they were already happening, like the decisions had been made without him. He came home one night smelling like a different restaurant, different cologne, different lipstick on his collar. A faint pink smear I saw when he turned to grab the milk from the fridge. Are you going to tell me about her? I asked later that week. About who? The woman whose lipstick is on your collar, Marcus. He laughed. He had the nerve to laugh. Maya, you're stressed. The wedding. The planning. You're reading into things. Maybe I'm reading into the lipstick because it's not mine. We sell to clients, we go to events, people hug us, things happen. You're going to have to trust me. I did trust him. For about 6 more weeks. That's how long it took for me to find proof he couldn't spin. It was a Tuesday. He was in the shower. His phone buzzed on the counter. I had promised myself I wouldn't look. I had promised myself after the last time that I would be the bigger person. But I looked. The lock screen had a message preview, a heart emoji, a name I didn't recognize. I told myself I wouldn't open it. I unlocked it anyway. The texts were long. They were weeks old. They talked about him sleeping over. They talked about planning trips without the mess. The mess was me. I scrolled up. I saw I love you. I saw photos. I saw inside jokes. I saw plans. I set the phone down exactly where it was. I walked out of the bathroom. I sat on the edge of the bed and I stared at the wall. He came out 10 minutes later, towel around his waist. He saw my face. "What?" he said. "Nothing," I said. The wedding cake samples came in. "We need to pick a flavor." He relaxed. He smiled. He kissed my forehead. I let him. And that's when something inside me went quiet. Not sad quiet, not crying quiet, cold quiet. The kind of quiet where a person makes a plan. I didn't cry that night. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just started paying attention. I started noticing where my own life actually stood. You see, my father died 2 years ago. He left me something. He left me a lot of something. He was a quiet man, my father. He built a company in the 80s, sold most of it, kept a chunk of the new one. The chunk was in Bennett Tech, the same company Marcus worked at. But Marcus didn't know that. My dad and Marcus had never met. My dad had passed before things got serious between us. My mom only ever called him your quiet gentleman. Marcus thought my dad was a retired electrician. So Marcus thought he was dating Maya from finance, the girl who occasionally forgot her badge, the girl who blushed when the CEO walked past her in the hall. He had no idea he was dating Carter, as in the other Carter, the one on the ownership papers. I didn't tell him then. I didn't tell anyone. I called my mom first. She picked up on the second ring. "Mom," I said, "are you in town this week? I'm always in town for you, baby." "Why? I need you at the board meeting tomorrow." A pause. "Honey, do you know what day that building is having?" "The one I told you about. Their big one. The investor meeting. They invited you?" "They invited my father's estate." Silence. Then my mom laughed. She laughed the way she used to when I was a kid and did something clever. "Come over," she said. "I'll bring my good earrings." That was Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, the betrayal got louder. Marcus didn't come home until 2 in the morning. He said he worked late on the deal. He walked in, dropped his keys, and saw me sitting at the kitchen table. "Why are you up?" he asked. "Why are you late?" I asked. He shrugged. He opened the fridge. He poured himself water. "Maya," he said, with the voice he used when he wanted me to back down, "I need you to sign some paperwork for me in the morning." "What paperwork?" "For the company. They want a payout option for some junior staff. It's a standard thing. You just sign at the bottom." He slid a folder across the table. I looked at the top page. It was from Bennett Tech. It was a compensation restructuring document. Certain employees were being offered a buyout to leave quietly, to make room for someone else's promotion path. My name wasn't on the list. "How did you get this?" I asked. "I'm on the strategy team. I brought it home. Who's being bought out?" "Just a few people. It's not personal. It's business." "And you want me to sign it because you don't want to argue with me about work tonight." I opened the folder slowly. I read every page. Underneath the restructuring language, in fine print, was a standard NDA. "Sign it, and you're locked out of ever talking about why you left." "Sign it, and you take a small check, and you disappear." Who was being quietly removed? 2 senior women, a long-time operations director, and 1 junior analyst in marketing. One of them was Sarah, a woman Marcus had been texting. The one with the lipstick on his collar. I set the folder down. "Marcus," I said, "who's Sarah?" He went still. "Coworker," he said. "Sign the paperwork, Maya. Don't start this right now. I'm asking you a question, and I'm telling you not to start this right now." I closed the folder. "I need you to be up at 7, he said. "Dress nice. We're meeting Jess for breakfast before the meeting. Jess, my best friend since college. The one who told me Marcus was the love of my life. The one I'd confided everything to." "Okay," I said. He went to bed. I sat there another hour. At 6 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A text from Jess. "Marcus told me things have been tense at home. Just be easy on him today. He's under a lot of pressure. Big meeting. Don't ruin it for him." I stared at it. I was supposed to ruin something? He was cheating. He had her lipstick on him. He was trying to push loyal women out of his company to make room for the woman he was sleeping with. And Jess was worried about me ruining his day. I texted back one word, okay. Then I got in the shower. I pinned my badge to my shirt, like Linda had suggested, but on the inside where nobody would see it yet. I wore a simple black suit. I put my hair up. I put on the small pearl earrings my dad gave me when I graduated. I looked in the mirror. I looked like a cleaning lady to them. I looked exactly like I was supposed to look that day. I met Marcus at the cafe near the office. Jess was already there, glossy and smug. She had 2 coffees in front of her. "There's my girl," Jess said, kissing my cheek. "You look tired, babe." "Did you sleep?" "Some," I said. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. It felt wrong. It felt like the hand of a stranger. "You excited for the breakfast?" he asked. "Which breakfast?" "The investor one. They invited me to sit in." "I'm going to be on the floor during the announcements." Anxious, Jess added. "Maya, you should be proud. He's about to get noticed by the big guys upstairs." I sipped my coffee. "Why am I here then?" I asked. Marcus looked at Jess. Jess looked at Marcus. "Because you look good in a dress and I want you on my arm," Marcus said. "And because they invited family." "And I should make you look stable," I said. He got tense. "Maya, don't." I smiled. I didn't say anything else. At 8:45, we walked into the Bennett Tech lobby together. Jess walked behind us on her phone. Marcus straightened his tie. He looked important. He looked like he belonged. Then a woman in a headset walked up. "Sir," she said to Marcus, cool and professional. "Your seat is in row 6. Side section." "Great," Marcus said. "And who are your guests?" "My fiancée Maya and her friend Jess." The woman looked at me. She looked at Jess. She made a note. "Names for the register: Maya Reyes, Jess Patel." The woman smiled politely. "Thank you. Row 6. The meeting starts at 9. We all walked toward the elevator. That's when Linda walked past. "Maya," she called. "Hi. You're here for the cleaner rotation, right? Same floor as last week?" I felt the air leave my chest. Cleaners. She still thought I was a cleaner, in front of my fiancé. In front of my best friend. Marcus laughed. He actually laughed. "She's joking," he said to no one. "She's my fiancé." Linda looked at me, then at my badge, then up at Marcus. "Oh," she said. "Oh, sorry." "Cleaners wear black too. You all look the same in black." "I don't wear a uniform, Linda." "We do," she said, flustered, turning away. Marcus put his hand on the small of my back and pushed me toward the elevator. "Don't make a thing of it," he whispered. I didn't. The elevator opened on the 14th floor. The one where the board met. The one where the announcement would be made. Marcus walked in line with the other employees. Jess and I sat in the back of the room in a small row marked family of staff. We sat down. Jess leaned over. "Smile," she said. "You look like you're going to a funeral." I smiled. At 9 sharp, the doors at the front of the room closed. A woman walked to the microphone. She was the senior VP. She'd been with the company 20 years. She looked tired and sharp at the same time. "Good morning," she said. "Thank you all for being here. We're going to begin with a moment of recognition, then move to our quarterly update." She paused. "Before we begin," she said, "I'd like to welcome the newest member of our board, the daughter of our late silent partner, Ms. Maya Carter." The entire room went quiet. I stood up in the back row. I unbuttoned my jacket and showed the small Carter family pin on my lapel, the one my dad had worn to every meeting for 30 years. Marcus turned in his chair. He saw me. Jess froze. Linda, who was standing at the side door with a clipboard, dropped her pen. "I'm sorry," the VP continued. "The family asked us to keep this quiet until today. I know it's a surprise for many of you. Maya will be stepping in as a voting board member effective immediately. She'll also be reviewing personnel matters currently under consideration." She looked directly at me. "Ms. Carter, would you like to say a few words?" I walked down the aisle. Every head turned. Every eye followed. I reached the front. I put my hand on the microphone. Marcus's face was the color of paper. Jess had stopped breathing. Linda was shaking. And in the whole room, the only person smiling was my mother, sitting in the front row in her good earrings. I looked at Marcus. I didn't say his name. I didn't say anything about the lipstick. I didn't say anything about the texts. I didn't say anything about Jess's text messages telling me to be easy on him. I just said, very calmly, very softly into the microphone, "Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'd like to begin with the personnel files on the table today." The room got so quiet you could hear the air. Marcus's phone buzzed on his chair. The secretary at the front of the room glanced at the screen. It was a notification from Sarah. It said, "Can't wait to celebrate your promotion tonight. Love you." It was lit up in front of the entire board. Marcus lunged for it. Too late. The VP had already seen it. She looked at me. "Miss Carter," she said, "should we address that or shall we table it?" I looked at Marcus. I looked at Jess. I looked at Linda. I smiled. "Let's begin," I said. And that was the moment everything changed. The room didn't move. 28 people sat frozen in their chairs. Some looked at Marcus. Some looked at the glowing phone screen the secretary was still holding. Most looked at me. I could feel Marcus's eyes on me like a sunburn. I didn't look back, not yet. The senior VP cleared her throat softly. She was a woman named Diane, and she had been at that company longer than anyone except the man whose estate I carried. She looked tired the way serious women look tired. Not from life, but from years of watching men like Marcus try to outrun their own consequences. "Ms. Carter," she said, "before we continue, I think we need to address the personnel files in front of you. There are 4 on the table. 2 of them are buyout recommendations. The other 2 are internal promotion recommendations. I see that, I said. Would you like to review them now, or would you prefer a private session with HR? I sat down at the head of the longboard table. The chair was leather. It was warm. It belonged to my father once, and I had asked for it to be left exactly where it was. I'll review them now, I said. With the room. Diane nodded. She didn't hesitate. I opened the first file. It was for a woman named Sarah Whitley, junior marketing analyst, 2 years at the company. A glowing performance review from her direct manager. A note from the senior VP recommending her for promotion to senior marketing lead. At the bottom, in red ink, was a recommendation that she be the first to be quietly bought out, removed, and replaced. The signature on the recommendation was Marcus Reyes. I read it out loud. Operationally redundant in the new structure. Recommend buyout and quiet removal. Replacement candidate already in pipeline. Signed, Marcus Reyes, Strategy Team. My voice didn't shake. It didn't do anything. It just read. Marcus stood up. Maya, he said, this is work. This is business. I don't think we need to do this in front of everyone. I looked at him. Sit down, Marcus. He sat down. Jess put her hand on his shoulder like she was going to defend him. I watched that hand settle and felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, just clarity. Why was Sarah being removed? I asked. Diane looked at her folder. Her last 3 quarterly reviews are excellent. Her client retention is among the highest in the marketing department. There is no operational reason for her removal. So why was her name on the buyout list? Because someone recommended it, Diane said carefully, and nobody above that rank questioned it. And who promoted the recommendation to the board? The recommendation came through Mr. Reyes' team. It was passed upward as part of a routine reorganization. I closed the file. Reopen Sarah Whitley's promotion file, I said. Effective immediately. Remove her buyout recommendation, forward it to legal for review of who submitted it and why. Yes, Miss Carter, Diane said. Marcus's face was red now. Maya, he whispered from across the table. We can talk about this later. At home. Please. I opened the second file. It was for a senior woman named Denise Park, 21 years with the company, head of customer service. Her last review called her the backbone of the department. Her name was on a buyout list, too. Why is Denise Park being removed? I asked. Diane hesitated. Because her direct supervisor submitted a note flagging her as not a cultural fit for the new leadership track. Which supervisor? Marcus Reyes. Marcus stood up again. I want to address the room, he said. He walked to the front. He was trying to look professional. He was failing. Everyone, he said, this restructuring is months in the making. It was approved at multiple levels. The decisions on the table are strategic, not personal. I understand there's a personal connection here, but I asked the room to separate the professional from the personal. I let him finish. I let him have every word. I watched him try to look powerful in front of the room that, 6 hours ago, had laughed at his jokes and eaten his snacks and called him one of the guys. When he was done, I spoke. Marcus, I said, sit down. He didn't sit. With all due respect, Maya, I think this is happening too fast. This is my career. You need to think about what you're doing. I looked at him. Sit down. Something about the way I said it made the air leave him. He sat. I opened the third file, then the fourth. Each one had Marcus's name on the recommendation line. Each one targeted a woman who had been there longer than him. Each one freed up space for someone new. Every single time, the woman being pushed out was someone loyal. And in 2 of the 4 files, the woman being pushed out was also someone Marcus was actively pursuing. I closed the last folder. Diane, I said, pull every personnel recommendation Marcus Reyes has submitted in the last 18 months, cross-reference them with HR exit interviews, cross-reference them with internal complaint filings. I want a full review on my desk by end of business Friday. Done. And Diane? Yes, Miss Carter. Until that review is complete, Marcus Reyes is suspended from all personnel decision authority. The room exhaled. Marcus opened his mouth. I raised one finger. He closed it. One more thing, I said. I'm aware that the family trust, my father's estate, is the largest single non-institutional shareholder of this company. I'm also aware that the board has been deferring certain structural decisions pending family clarification. That clarification is now complete. From this moment, the Carter estate will vote as a single block on all major company matters. That includes buyouts, promotions, and senior leadership reviews. Linda, who had been standing at the side door the entire time, dropped her clipboard for the second time that morning. Papers slid across the floor. No one picked them up for her. The meeting ended at 11. I shook hands with the senior staff. I thanked Diane by name. I asked about her daughter, who had applied to the same nursing program that I had once considered. She looked surprised. She didn't know that detail about me until just then. Nobody did. As the room emptied, three things happened at once. First, Marcus walked up to me. He was sweating. He had the same look he used to have when his dad called him out for something at 12 years old. Maya, he said, can we please go somewhere private? To where? To talk. Please. Just talk. I looked at him. What would you like to say, Marcus? I love you. I want to fix this. I don't know what happened. I want to fix it. You don't know what happened? I made mistakes. With work. With how I handled things. But I love you. You love me. I do. And Sarah, he went still. And Jess, who told me to be easier on you this morning? Who texted me last night saying don't ruin his day? He blinked. What? Your phone, Marcus? I read your texts. I read Sarah's. I read all of them. I read the one that says you two have been planning trips without the mess. The mess was me. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. And the papers you brought home last night, I said, were personnel buyouts you wanted me to sign away. Two of the women on that list were people you'd been sleeping with or trying to sleep with. The third was a woman who refused your advances 2 years ago, and you have been slowly trying to erase her from the company ever since. Maya, so when you tell me you love me, Marcus, I need you to understand what you are telling me that you love, because the Maya you are talking to is not the one you've been cheating on. The Maya you've been cheating on was just convenient. The Maya sitting in front of you right now has the ability to end your career in this building with one email. He didn't move. What do you want to say to that? I'm sorry, he whispered. Which part? Everything. That's what I thought. I picked up my folder. I tucked it under my arm. You're suspended from personnel decisions, Marcus. Your compensation is frozen pending audit. The apartment lease is in my name. I will be changing the locks today. You can collect your things between 6 and 8 tonight. I'll be gone. My mother will be there. She will not let you in without a police escort if you come back unannounced. Maya, please. You told me yesterday not to ruin your meeting, so I didn't. I let you have your morning. I let you walk in with your tie straightened. I let you introduce me as your fiancé. I even let Jess hold your shoulder in front of me like I was too weak to understand what was happening. I paused. Your meeting is ruined, Marcus. But not by me. I turned and walked out. Second, Jess came to find me as I was waiting for the elevator. Maya, she said, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. He came to me. He told me you were unstable. He told me you were imagining things. He said you were stressed and needed me to keep an eye on you. I believed him. I'm sorry. You believed him because it was easier to believe him than to ask me. You never once asked me, Jess. Not once. You just took his word. She was crying. I didn't want to believe he was bad. I wanted to believe the best in him. The best in him was a lie, Jess. He slept with half the office. He tried to get me to sign away 2 women's careers so he could keep sleeping with one of them. He has been gaslighting me for a year. He's been telling you I'm crazy so you would vouch for him. He's been using your friendship to cover up his cheating for the last 6 months. She sat down on the floor of the hallway. I'm sorry, she said again. I'm not the one you owe the apology to. You owe it to the women on the buyout list. You owe it to Sarah. You owe it to Denise. You owe it to every person in that building who watched him and said nothing. She didn't say anything else. I got in the elevator. I let the door close. Third, Linda came to my office that afternoon. She brought a coffee, a real one, in a real cup, with a small printed apology card. Please don't take this, as she started. Linda, I said, I don't want the coffee. I don't want the card. I want you to tell the woman you work with every day that a uniform is not a costume for guessing. I want you to tell the next person who walks in the building in a black dress that she might be the most important person in the room. I'm sorry, I know. She left the card on my desk. I put it in the trash. At 6 o'clock that night, my mom texted me. He's at the apartment. He's brought movers. He keeps saying he needs to talk. I'm watching from the hallway. The police are on standby. Do you want me to let him in? I called her. Let him get his clothes, Mom. Just his clothes. Not the books, not the photos, not anything we built together. Only what he brought into this home. And the cats? She asked. We had 2 cats. They were technically mine. They go with him. He keeps saying he wants a chance to explain. He had 4 years to explain. He used all of them to lie. She laughed quietly. You sound just like your father. Thank you, Mom. Heard you were powerful in that meeting. I was just honest, Mom. That's what power looks like when it's earned. At 9 o'clock, I sat in my apartment. Just me, my mom, 2 cats that hated me since Marcus took them, and an empty closet where his things used to hang. My mom made me chamomile tea. She sat across from me. "You're going to be okay, baby," she said. "I know. You hurt. I know. Good. It means you let yourself love. Your father hurt like that once. He never forgot it. But he never stopped working either. That's how you'll get through this. One day at a time. One meeting at a time." I looked at her. "How did Dad do it?" "He did what you did today. He didn't scream. He didn't make a scene. He just walked into a room and let the truth catch up to the people who thought they could outrun it." "Is that what I did?" "That's exactly what you did." I sipped my tea. "Mom," I said, "thank you for coming today. I needed you to see it. I saw it. I always saw it. You're going to be all right, Maya, and you're going to be happy. Not the kind of happy that needs someone else to hold it together. The kind that holds itself." 3 months later, Marcus was quietly bought out of the company. The buyout was signed by me. His exit papers included an NDA so tight his lawyers couldn't argue it. Sarah kept her job. She was promoted to senior marketing lead 6 weeks later. She sent me a quiet thank you card through internal mail. It said, "I will never forget what you did for me." Denise Park was made partner. She cried in her office when she got the news. She told the company she would never forget it. Jess and I haven't spoken since. I see her once in a while at a coffee shop. She nods. I don't. That's the way it has to be. Linda still works at the front desk. She nods to me now. She calls me Miss Carter. She never calls me honey again. The wedding venue was canceled. My deposit came back. My mom took me to a spa for a weekend instead. We laughed the entire time. I dated myself for 6 months. I read books my dad loved. I took walks in the place we used to go for his morning coffee. I rebuilt my office. I put a photo of my father on the desk. I put a small framed note on the wall. It says, "Power is not loud. Power endures." And every morning when I walk into that building, I pin my badge to my shirt. I never forget. Not because someone told me to. Because I am the one people listen to now. And that is how you end a story that should never have started. Story 3. My son handed me a retirement brochure and told me to pick somewhere else to grow old. I still remember the exact moment my hands started shaking. It was a Tuesday morning. The kind of quiet morning where the only sound in the house was the kettle clicking off and the neighbor's dog barking 2 streets over. I had just poured myself a cup of tea, the cheap brand, the one I always buy because I never got around to liking the expensive stuff, when my son Marcus walked into the kitchen holding a glossy brochure. Not a birthday card, not a photo, not even a quick hug like he used to give me when he was little. A brochure. It was the kind they hand out at retirement homes. The kind with smiling old couples walking on beaches. The kind with words like peaceful, community, and begin again. He dropped it on the table in front of me, and then he said the words that broke something inside my chest. "Mom, I think it's time. We need the room. Pick somewhere nice. Somewhere else. You can grow old there." I just stared at him. My tea was getting cold, the fridge was humming, and my boy, the boy I raised alone, the boy I had packed lunches for every single day for 18 years, the boy who used to cry if I wasn't sitting on his bed when he fell asleep, was telling me to leave my own home. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just said, "Okay, Marcus." And the way he relaxed, like he had been holding his breath for months waiting to say that sentence out loud, that's when I knew this wasn't just about a room. Let me take you back. Because you can't understand how much that moment hurt unless you know what came before it. My name is Diane. I'm 58 years old. I live in a small 3-bedroom house in a quiet little town in Ohio. The kind of town where everyone waves at each other, but nobody really knows anybody's business anymore. The house was my mother's before it was mine. I grew up in the back bedroom. I raised Marcus in the front bedroom. I buried my husband in the backyard, well, his ashes, anyway. We didn't have much money for anything fancy. When Marcus was 7, his father walked out. No big fight, no dramatic slam door. He just stopped coming home one night. Then the next night. Then forever. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have savings. I had a 7-year-old boy who liked dinosaurs and hated carrots, and I had 2 part-time jobs. One at the diner, one cleaning offices at night. I worked until my feet bled. I cried in the bathroom at the diner when I thought nobody was looking. But I never let Marcus see me cry. Never. I made sure he had shoes that fit. I made sure he had a birthday cake every year, even if it was a $4 box mix with canned frosting. I made sure he went to school with a full stomach and a clean shirt. When he turned 16, he asked me if we could go out for dinner, just the 2 of us, to celebrate being a team. I still remember what I ordered that night, a burger and a Coke. He ordered a steak. And when the bill came, he pulled out his wallet and said, "My treat, Mom. You did good." I thought I was raising a man who understood what loyalty looked like. I was wrong. Things started changing about a year ago, slowly, the kind of slow you almost don't notice, until one day you look back and realize everything is different. It started with little things. Marcus would come home late on weeknights. He'd say it was work. He'd say traffic was bad. He'd say his phone died and he couldn't text. Then he'd disappear into his room and close the door. I tried not to worry. He's 28. He's a grown man. Grown men are allowed to be busy. But then the comments started. Diane, maybe you're hovering. That was Karen, my neighbor. She's been my friend for 15 years. Or I thought she was. You're a good mom, but sometimes good moms don't know when to step back. Maybe Marcus needs space. Then I heard it from my sister Linda. Diane, you're always at his house checking on him. Let the boy live. I wasn't checking on him. I was living in my own house. Marcus moved back in 2 years ago after his divorce. I was happy to have him home. He said he needed a fresh start. But then he started bringing over a friend from work. Her name was Jenna. She had long blonde hair, painted nails that clicked on the table when she was nervous, and a smile she wore like a mask. She called my kitchen so cozy 3 times in one visit. She told me she was so grateful Marcus had such a supportive mom. I should have seen it then. I'll be honest with you. Part of me wondered if something was off about Jenna. Not just because she showed up so often. Not just because she started cooking in my kitchen and reorganizing my fridge. Diane, you don't need 3 kinds of mustard. But because of how Marcus changed, he used to talk to me. Not every day, I wasn't one of those moms who needed constant attention. But he used to sit at the table with me in the evening and tell me about his day. After Jenna, the table got quieter. He'd say, "Hey mom," while looking at his phone. He'd say, "How are you?" without waiting for the answer. He'd say, "Jenna thinks I should." And then I would hear a list of things my own son thought I should do differently. Should eat less salt. Should stop buying the cheap cereal. Should maybe go out more. Like, for your own good, Mom. I always nodded. I always smiled. I always said, "Okay, sweetheart, whatever you think is best." But inside, something was quietly cracking. Last Christmas, the crack got a little bigger. Marcus asked me what I wanted. I said I didn't need anything. I was happy with a new book and an evening watching the fire. He didn't give me a book. He gave me a sweater, a wool one, beige, with a tag that said Senior Blend. He laughed when I opened it. "It's got that nice soft fabric, Mom. You won't itch. Old lady's skin is sensitive." I tried to laugh too, but the word old landed on me like a stone in still water. I set the sweater aside. I never wore it. Let me tell you about the night everything started coming into focus. It was 4 months ago. I came home from grocery shopping. The bags were heavy. My back hurt. I had walked because the car was in the shop and I didn't want to bother Marcus. When I walked into the kitchen, Marcus and Jenna were sitting at the table with a laptop open between them. They froze when they saw me. "Mom, hey," Marcus said, smiling too wide. "You're back early." It was 4:30. That's my usual time. Jenna closed the laptop screen fast. Not slow, not casual, fast. "What are you two looking at?" I asked, setting the bags down on the counter. "Just work stuff," Marcus said, boring. Jenna stood up. "Diane, can I help you put those away?" "No, thank you, sweetheart. I'll handle it." I could feel it. The shift, the not telling. When I went to bed that night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling fan going round and round, and I thought about how a boy who used to bring me his report cards like they were awards was now closing his laptop when I walked into the kitchen. The next week, Marcus mentioned money. He said it casually, like it was nothing. "Mom, property taxes are getting crazy on this house. Have you thought about selling, downsizing?" I blinked at him. "But this house has been in our family for 3 generations. I know, but it's just sitting here. You could get a nice little condo somewhere warm. Florida. Maybe even somewhere with a beach view. You'd like that, right?" The brochure thing. The brochure thing. This was the first time he had said it out loud. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I just said, "I'll think about it." That night, I called my sister Linda. "Linda, do you think Marcus is off?" She sighed. The kind of sigh where you can hear the eye roll. "Diane, you're always looking for problems. Marcus is a good boy. He's just trying to look out for you. You're not getting any younger." They're talking about Florida. Linda. Florida is nice. Lots of old people go there. You'd make friends. I almost asked her if she had hurt herself. "I'm going to let you in on something. Something I never told Marcus. Something I never told Linda. But I'm telling you, because you have to understand who I really am. Not the quiet mom, not the okay, sweetheart mom, the real mom." When Marcus's father left, I didn't just cry in the bathroom. I also did something smart. I opened a small savings account at the credit union on Elm Street. Just $20 at first, then $50, then $100 every month, even when I had to skip meals to do it. I read a book at the library about investing. I didn't understand it the first time, so I read it again and again until I did. For 30 years, I put money in, quietly, carefully. Never told anyone. Never showed off, never borrowed against it. I bought a little piece of land 12 years ago. Just 2 acres, out past the old mill road. Paid cash. Nobody knows it's mine. Not even Marcus. I have stock in 3 companies I've worked for. I have a small IRA I started after Marcus moved out the first time. I have a list of names, documents, a folder in my bedroom closet with a manila label that says, just in case. I built a little life raft, just in case my boy ever needed it. I never thought he would be the reason I'd need it. 2 weeks ago, on a Wednesday night, I sat down at the kitchen table while Marcus and Jenna watched a show in the living room. I took out my phone, I opened my banking app, I looked at the numbers. They weren't small, not anywhere near small. Then I looked at the land deed in my folder, then the stock certificates, then the retirement account. My hands didn't shake this time, they were steady. I put the folder back, I closed the app, I poured myself another cup of tea, the cheap brand, and I sat there thinking. I thought about the 7-year-old boy who cried when he couldn't find his dinosaur toy. I thought about the 16-year-old boy who bought me a steak dinner and called us a team. I thought about the 28-year-old man at the table with a brochure and the words somewhere else. I thought about Jenna clicking her nails on my table. I thought about Linda telling me I was looking for problems. And then I made a decision. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't yell. I didn't throw the brochure in the trash where it belonged. I just started moving pieces. Slowly, quietly. The way my mama taught me to move when things got hard. With patience and with eyes wide open. I called an attorney named Mr. Whitfield. A nice man, older, gentle voice. He listened to the whole story. He didn't interrupt me once. When I was done, he said, "Diane, you don't need to leave that house. And you don't need to leave it alone. There's a few things we should look at." I nodded. "Yes, sir. Let's look at them." I moved some money into a different account. One Marcus doesn't know exists. One nobody knows it's about except me and Mr. Whitfield. I had a quiet conversation with my doctor about long-term care options. Just in case. Just to know. I visited the land out past the old mill road. The weeds were tall. The fence needed work, but it was mine. Quietly, fully, legally mine. I sat on an old wooden crate out there and I said out loud to nobody but the trees, "If you want me gone, boy, you're gonna wish you never said it." 3 days ago, Marcus sat down across from me at breakfast. Jenna was upstairs doing her makeup. She was always doing her makeup, stepping out of our lives one freshly painted eyelash at a time. He pushed the brochure toward me, the same glossy one. Smiling old people, beach views, begin again. "Mom, have you looked at this?" Jenna found some really nice ones in Arizona. He tapped the brochure, like he was selling me a used car. "Mom, we need the room, and honestly, it would be good for you. New adventure, new people. You always say you don't have enough friends." I lifted my eyes, slowly, calmly. "Marcus, do you remember when you were 7 and your father left? Do you remember who stayed?" His jaw tightened, just a little. "Mom, don't start. I'm just asking, sweetheart." He looked away. "You stayed," I said quietly. "I stayed. I didn't leave. I didn't ship you off to anyone. I didn't hand you a brochure and say pick somewhere else." He didn't answer. Jenna's footsteps were coming down the stairs. "I just want you to know," I said, "that I have loved you every single day of your life, even the days you forgot to love me back." His eyes met mine. For 1 second, I saw my little boy looking out of that man's face. Then he blinked. Then the moment was gone. He said, "Again, Mom, just pick somewhere, please." I looked at the brochure. Then I looked at him, and I said very softly, "Okay, Marcus, okay." He exhaled, he relaxed. He stood up to walk to work. He didn't see me slide my phone into my pocket. He didn't see the text I sent to Mr. Whitfield. "It's time. Start the paperwork." He didn't see the look on my face as I watched the door close behind him. Because for 30 years, I've been the quiet one, the kind one, the one who nods. But quiet doesn't mean weak, and kind doesn't mean blind. I don't know what Marcus thinks I'm going to do. He thinks I'm going to fold the brochure neatly, pack my clothes into old suitcases, and disappear to some sunny place where the lobby has a piano and the dining hall has soft lighting. He thinks I'm old. He thinks I'm tired. He thinks I have nothing. He has no idea what I have. He has no idea what's coming. Because the brochure he handed me, I'm not going to use it to leave. I'm going to use it to take back everything he forgot was mine. Jenna's going to find out she's not marrying into what she thought she was. Linda's going to learn what it feels like to be wrong on a level she can't undo. And Marcus is going to sit at that table one morning and realize the quiet little woman he tried to pack away quietly took everything he didn't even know was exposed, including him, especially him. He wanted me gone. But the woman he tried to erase, she's the woman holding all the cards, and I haven't even started to play. I wasn't always this quiet. When I was a little girl, my mama used to say I had a mouth on me like a shopkeeper and a mind like a steel trap. I talked back to the school principal in third grade and never got sent to the office again. I argued with my uncle at Thanksgiving. I won. Then Marcus was born, and I learned something. Being loud doesn't win wars, being clever does. So I quieted down. I learned to listen. I learned to watch. I learned that the most powerful people in any room are usually the ones sitting still while everyone else is busy talking over each other. That lesson has stayed with me for 30 years, and now it's time to use it. 3 days after I texted Mr. Whitfield, I drove out to the land. I hadn't been out there in months. The weeds were up to my knees. The little wooden marker I had nailed to the corner post was faded, but still there. Still mine. I parked my old sedan at the edge of the dirt road. I walked the property line. I counted trees. I made notes in a small spiral notebook I keep in my purse. Then I drove back into town and stopped at the feed store. Burl, how much for 10 acres of fence posts? Burl looked up from his newspaper. He's known me since I was a kid. Diane, what are you doing with 10 acres? Just thinking ahead, Burl. He gave me the price. I paid cash. He raised an eyebrow but didn't push. That's the thing about small towns. People don't ask the second question. The next morning, I called Linda. Linda, I'm going to need to borrow your dining table this weekend. She paused. The dining table? For what family meeting? What family meeting? The one I'm having. Saturday, 10 o'clock, your house if Marcus won't sit still long enough for the whole conversation. Linda laughed. Diane, what are you up to? Nothing. Just a little get-together. Diane, let me ask you something, Linda. What? If Marcus told you he wanted to put me in a home, what would you say? Silence. 3 seconds. 5. Diane, that's not fair. He's not putting you in a home. He just thinks it'd be nice for you to have community. Community, Linda? In a brochure. You're being dramatic. I'm being precise. There's a difference, she sighed. Fine, Saturday at my house. But this better not be some big emotional scene, Diane. I have plans at noon. I promise. Not a scene. I hung up. I wasn't lying. It wasn't going to be a scene. It was going to be a fact. Saturday morning, I woke up early. I made my bed. I put on the clean beige blouse I bought at the thrift store last winter. I brushed my hair. I looked in the mirror for a long time. I didn't see the sad mom with the cheap tea anymore. I saw the woman who never quit. I drove to Linda's with a small manila envelope in my purse. The one with the manila label that said just in case. Marcus was already there when I arrived. He had Jenna with him. Of course he did. Linda was pouring coffee in the kitchen. Her husband Roy was in the living room, reading the sports page. Hey, Mom, Marcus said. Jenna's here. Hope that's okay? Of course it's okay, sweetheart. Sit. Let me get coffee. I sat down. I set the envelope on the table. Flat. Quiet. So Marcus began. We were thinking about Arizona. The brochure had some really nice places. You'd have your own little cottage. Walking paths. Bingo on Wednesdays. Marcus, I said softly. Yeah? Let me ask you a question first. He shifted in his chair. Jenna clicked her nails together the way she always did when she didn't like the temperature of a room. Okay, sure. Shoot. This house. The one your grandmother left me. The one your father walked out of. The one I paid the property taxes on every year with my own 2 hands. What's it worth, would you say? He blinked. I don't know, Mom. Maybe 120,000 in this market? I nodded. And if I were to sell it today, who would get the money? He hesitated. Well, you would. And what would you get, Marcus? Mom, what is this? Humor me, sweetheart. Nothing. I wouldn't get anything. It's your house. I took a sip of my coffee, let the silence do its work. And yet, I said quietly, you brought me a brochure. You told me to leave. You told me you needed the room. You told me to pick somewhere else. His face flushed. Mom, that's not how It's exactly how you said it, Marcus. I heard you. Jenna heard you. Linda heard you. Jenna opened her mouth, then she closed it. I reached for the manila envelope. Marcus, I want to show you something. He didn't move. I slid a single piece of paper across the table. It was a deed. 2 acres of land out past the old mill road, paid in full, 12 years ago. My name, only my name. He stared at it. He didn't say anything. Jenna, sweetheart, I said, turning my head toward her, would you mind passing me the next one? She hesitated. Then she slid open the envelope. Inside was a second page, a stock certificate, 3 companies. A combined value I'd rather not say out loud on a Saturday morning in my sister's kitchen, but it was enough to make Roy put down the sports page. Then a third page, a retirement account summary. Then a fourth, then a fifth, then a bank statement from an account Marcus had never heard about. An account Mr. Whitfield had set up 3 days earlier, quietly, legally, with all the proper protections an old woman talking to her lawyer would need. Marcus looked up at me. His face had gone pale. Mom, what is this? This is the brochure, sweetheart. He blinked. Twice. You wanted me to pick somewhere else to grow old. So I did. I picked the land I already own, the investments I already built, the accounts I already had quietly for 30 years, while you were busy thinking I was just a quiet old woman with a cheap kettle and a box of stale cereal. Mom, let me finish, Marcus. He froze. You weren't there when I cried in the diner bathroom. You weren't there when I walked to work in the snow because the car was in the shop and I didn't want to bother anyone. You didn't know I ever cried because I never let you see. That was my job. My job was to make sure my son never knew what it cost to raise him. Mom, I loved you every single day, Marcus. I never missed a school play. I never missed a parent-teacher conference. I never once told you no when you needed shoes. When your father left, I didn't leave you. I didn't give you away. I didn't hand you a brochure and tell you to pick somewhere else. His eyes were wet now. He blinked it away. Mom, I didn't mean... Yes, you did. You meant it. You and Jenna had this conversation all planned out. Probably at that little laptop you kept closing every time I walked into the kitchen. I saw you, sweetheart. I've always seen you. I just loved you too much to say it out loud. Jenna shifted in her chair. And Jenna, sweetheart, I said, turning to face her. I want to say something to you too. She swallowed. Her nails clicked once on the table. You rearranged my fridge. You told me to use less salt. You gave my son sweater labels that said senior blend. You thought I was a sweet little old lady you could polish into a corner somewhere sunny so you could have my son's full attention, my kitchen, my dining room, and eventually whatever was left of my family's future. Her face went white. I'm not a sweet little old lady, Jenna. Mrs. Reynolds, don't call me Mrs. Reynolds. Call me Diane. And don't finish that sentence, because if you finish it, I will. She closed her mouth. Roy in the living room had stopped pretending to read the paper. Linda hadn't moved from her chair. I took a breath. Marcus, I'm 58 years old. I am not old. I am tired, but I am not tired. I am quiet, but I have never once been weak. Mom, please? There is no please yet. Let me finish. He nodded. You have two choices, sweetheart. And you have to choose them in front of your aunt and your uncle, because I want witnesses. Witnesses who love you. Witnesses who will remember. Two choices, he whispered. Choice one. You stay in this house with me. You stay until you can save enough to live on your own. You contribute, you clean, you cook, you do your own laundry. And Jenna comes over only when I invite her. No more rearranging my fridge, no more senior this and senior that, no more brochures, and you sit with me at the table once a week like you used to. Just the two of us, like we used to be a team. And choice two? His voice cracked. Choice two is that you keep going, you keep planning, you keep packing your mother off to Arizona or Florida, or wherever you think old women go to disappear. And when you do, you lose this house, you lose my support, you lose access to me. And someday, not today, not next week, but someday, when you wake up in that bedroom you wanted so badly without a single soul who ever loved you more than they loved themselves, you will remember this table, and you will remember what you almost threw away. I let the silence sit there, like a held breath. He didn't move. Jenna didn't move. Linda hadn't blinked in a full minute. Then Marcus looked at me. His eyes were full of something I hadn't seen on his face since he was 7 years old. Not joy, not embarrassment. Grief, real grief. The kind you only feel when you understand what you've lost. Mom, he whispered, I'm sorry. I know, sweetheart, I didn't mean to, I know. Can you forgive me? I didn't answer right away, because I wanted him to sit in the question for a moment. I wanted him to feel the weight of it. Then I said, very quietly, I forgave you the moment you walked into that kitchen with that brochure, because that's what mothers do. We forgive. Even when it costs us. Mom, but you have to do your part, Marcus. You have to show up. Not just today, every day. You have to remember who stayed. He nodded. Slowly, then again. I will. I swear I will. Jenna stood up first. She didn't say a word. She picked up her purse. She walked to the door. She paused. She turned back. Diane, she said. Her voice was small. I'm sorry, too. For the sweater. For she stopped. Her nails clicked together once. For all of it. I nodded. Thank you, sweetheart. She left. Roy folded his paper. He came into the kitchen. He kissed the top of my head. You're something else, Diane. I know, Roy. I know. Linda hadn't moved. Then she reached across the table. She squeezed my hand. I owed you better than that, she said. I did. You did, Linda. I'm sorry. I know. I stayed at Linda's for another 20 minutes. We talked. We cried a little, quietly, the way women cry when they finally let themselves. Roy made fresh coffee. Marcus sat at the table like a boy again, not the 28-year-old man, the boy. When I finally stood up to leave, Marcus walked me to the door. Mom? Yes, sweetheart. The brochure in the kitchen. I'll keep it. You will? I'll keep it. As a reminder of the day my son handed me a brochure and the day his mother handed him back his future, he hugged me, a real hug. Not a back pat, not a quick squeeze, a real hug. The kind you give when you finally understand what you've been holding in your hands this whole time. I held him for a long time. Then I said, now go wash your sweater, the senior one. He laughed through his tears. That night I sat out on the porch alone. The sky was purple and orange and getting dark. The neighbor's dog was barking again. A car drove by with the windows down, someone's radio playing country music too loud. I thought about my mother. I thought about Marcus. I thought about his father. I thought about the diner, the tears in the bathroom, the shoes that fit. I thought about the woman I was at 17, terrified, alone, holding a baby who wouldn't stop crying. I thought about the woman I am today, 58 years old, quiet, steady, done. I picked up the brochure from my purse, the bright cover, smiling old people, begin again. I tore it slowly down the middle, then I put it in the kitchen trash, not in anger, in closure. 3 months have passed since that Saturday. Marcus kept his promise. Every Sunday we sit at the table, just the two of us. He listens now, not always perfectly, but he tries. Each week a little more. Jenna comes over now only when I invite her. We make coffee together once a week. She still likes to tell me how to organize things. I let her. It's her way of trying. I'm not too proud to let people try. Linda calls me every week now, sometimes twice. She doesn't tell me what to do anymore. She asks me how I'm doing, like she should have been doing all along. Roy brings me tomatoes from his garden in the summer, without asking, without ceremony. The land out past the old mill road is still empty, but the weeds are down. The fence is up. There's a little wooden crate out there where I sit with my tea on quiet mornings. I haven't decided what to build yet. Maybe a small house, maybe nothing. Maybe just land for my son's children someday, if he ever learns to give before he takes. But that's not for today. People keep telling me I shouldn't forgive Marcus. They say I should have packed my things and left. They say I should have cut him off. They say letting him back in was weakness on my part. Maybe they're right. Or maybe the strongest thing a woman can do is look at the boy who broke her heart and say, I see you. Come home. I didn't fight Marcus. I didn't shout. I didn't slam a door. I didn't even argue. I just opened a manila envelope, because the loudest thing in any room is sometimes the person who chose to be silent. And I am not done being silent. I have a whole life left to live. Out past the old mill road, with a fence that doesn't lie, with land that doesn't forget, with a son who finally is beginning to remember who stayed. So if there's someone in your life right now treating you like a quiet little person who doesn't deserve to be seen, who hands you a brochure and tells you to go away, listen to me carefully. You are not quiet because you are small. You are quiet because you are building. And one day they will sit down across from you at the kitchen table, and they will not be able to look you in the eye, because they will finally see what was always sitting right in front of them. And the only words you will need to say are these. Okay, sweetheart, now you know. The kettle clicked off. I poured myself another cup of tea, the cheap brand, the one I never learned to stop liking. I sat down at the table. The brochure was gone. The envelope was closed. The future was mine. And for the first time in 30 years, I didn't feel tired. I just felt like Diane. Story 4. My sister told everyone I abandoned Mom. She didn't expect Mom to speak up. The first time I heard my sister telling people I had abandoned our mother, I was standing 3 feet away from her in the canned soup aisle at Miller's grocery. I still remember the sound of her voice, soft, hurt, careful, that fake, careful voice she used when she wanted strangers to think she was the victim. I don't know, she said into her phone with a little sigh. Some people just can't handle responsibility. Mom needed her and she left. I froze with a basket in my hand. For a second, I honestly thought she had to be talking about someone else. Then she turned slightly, saw me at the end of the aisle, and didn't even flinch. She just kept talking. It's been really hard on me, she said. I've had to do everything alone. I stared at her so hard my eyes started to burn. Because 12 hours earlier, I had been the one changing mom's sheets after she got sick in the night. I had been the one cleaning the bathroom floor. I had been the one crushing pills into applesauce because mom had trouble swallowing them whole. And my sister Vanessa had not been there. Again. She ended the call, slipped her phone into her purse, and gave me this tiny little smile like we were two women who had simply run into each other by accident. "Oh," she said, "you're here." I think that was the moment something inside me shifted. Not snapped, not exploded, shifted. Because if she had yelled at me, I could have yelled back. If she had insulted me to my face, I could have defended myself. But that smile, that calm little smile after lying so easily, that told me this had been going on for a while. I set my basket down and asked, very quietly, "How long have you been telling people that?" She blinked. "Telling people what?" "That I abandoned mom." Vanessa crossed her arms. "If the shoe fits." I laughed once. I couldn't help it. It came out like a cough. "The shoe fits," I repeated. "That's interesting, considering I've been living in mom's house for the last 8 months. You sleep there," she said. "That's not the same as caring." I just stared at her. Then she leaned closer and lowered her voice. "You know what your problem is, Lena," she said. "You think doing the bare minimum makes you some kind of saint. I should explain something. Vanessa is my older sister. She is 3 years older than me, prettier than me in the kind of way people notice right away, and one of those women who knows exactly how to walk into a room and make everybody feel like they've known her forever. She laughs at the right time, touches your arm when she talks, remembers birthdays, says things like, 'I'm just worried about the family.' People love women like Vanessa, until they have to survive one. Growing up, she was the golden child, I was the reliable one. Vanessa got attention, I got responsibility. If Vanessa forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer, mom would sigh and do it herself. If I forgot, I got a lecture about how one day people would depend on me, so I needed to be better. I'm not saying mom was unfair on purpose. I don't think she was. I think she just believed Vanessa needed more softness and I needed more toughness. The problem is, after years of that, one daughter grows up expecting to be rescued. The other grows up expecting to carry everybody. And that was exactly what happened when mom got sick. It started slowly. She forgot little things first. A kettle left boiling too long. The same question asked 3 times in one afternoon, milk in the pantry instead of the fridge. At first, mom laughed it off. "I'm getting old," she'd say, "that's all." But then she fell in the backyard one morning while trying to hang laundry, and our neighbor had to help her up. Then she missed a doctor's appointment she had written on the calendar herself. Then one night she called me at 1:17 in the morning, whispering, "Lena, there's a man in the house." There was no man in the house. It was the coat rack in the hallway. After that, I started coming over more, then almost every day. I lived 40 minutes away in a small apartment with my fiancé at the time, Derek. We had been together 4 years. We were supposed to be planning a wedding. Instead, I was spending most nights at mom's place. At first, Derek acted understanding. "Of course," he said. "Family comes first." But after a while, the little comments started. "You're never home. I feel like I'm dating a ghost. Your sister should be helping too." On that last part, he was right. Vanessa lived 15 minutes from mom, 15. But somehow she was always busy, busy with the kids, busy with work, busy with stress, busy with life. That's how she said it too, hand to chest, like no one else had a life. "I'm doing my best," she would say, whenever I asked her to cover one doctor visit or one pharmacy pickup. "I can't do everything." The funny thing was, nobody had asked her to do everything. We were just asking her to do anything. When mom's doctor finally sat us down and told us her memory problems were getting worse and that she should not be living alone anymore, Vanessa cried instantly, like movie crying. One hand over her mouth, eyes full, perfect. "Oh my God," she whispered. "What are we gonna do?" I already knew. I had known for weeks, so I said, "I'll move in for now." The doctor nodded like that made sense. Vanessa grabbed my hand and squeezed it. "I don't know what we'd do without you," she said. I should have known then, because Vanessa always thanks people right before using them. I moved into mom's guest room 2 weeks later. At first, I thought it would be temporary, just until we got a routine. Just until Vanessa adjusted her schedule. Just until mom stabilized. But just until has a way of turning into your whole life if you're not careful. I started waking up at 5:30 every morning to help mom bathe before work. I switched to remote work 3 days a week. I handled the medications, the groceries, the bills, the laundry, the appointments, the meal prep, and the nights when mom woke up confused and angry and asked where her own mother was. Some nights she knew me right away. Some nights she called me Vanessa. Some nights she looked at me with this tired, frightened face and said, "Please don't leave me here." And every single time I said the same thing. "I'm here, Mom. I'm not going anywhere." Vanessa came by just enough to be seen. That's important. She never disappeared fully. She knew better than that. She came on Sundays with bakery cookies and bright lipstick. She sat by Mom's bed and spoke in a sweet voice. "How's my girl today?" She posted photos online, grateful for every moment with family. If Mom smiled in the picture, people filled the comments with hearts. If Vanessa looked tired, people called her an angel. Meanwhile, I was the one in the background scrubbing dried soup off the stove. At first, I told myself not to be bitter. People only saw what they saw. That wasn't Vanessa's fault. Then the weird little things started. Mom's pain cream would run out too fast. Cash I left in the kitchen drawer for the delivery guy would disappear. Vanessa would ask strange questions. Did mom ever update her will? Are you still on her bank account for emergencies? Do you know where she keeps the house papers? The first time I brushed it off. The second time I noticed. The third time I started paying attention. One night Vanessa came over while I was making grilled cheese for mom. Mom was in the living room half asleep in her chair, a blanket over her knees. Vanessa leaned against the counter and watched me flip sandwiches. You look rough, she said. Thanks. I mean it, Lena. You can't keep doing this forever. I shrugged. I know. You should think about your own life too. There was something in her tone that made me glance up. She was smiling, but her eyes were cold. Then she said, people are already starting to talk. I set the spatula down. About what? She tilted her head. About how isolated mom is. I laughed in disbelief. Isolated? She sees me every day. She sees you, Vanessa said. That's not the same thing. I felt heat rush up my neck. What exactly are you trying to say? I'm saying maybe you're too controlling. That word hit me so hard I actually stepped back. Controlling? Like I was keeping mom prisoner? Like I was some selfish daughter locking her away? She can't even remember what day it is sometimes, I said. I'm not controlling her. I'm taking care of her. Vanessa lifted one shoulder. That's your version? My version? I looked over at mom in the living room. She was staring at the TV, not really watching it. Frail, thin, quiet. And I had this awful feeling that Vanessa was already building a story around me. A story where I was the bitter younger daughter who moved in, took over, pushed everybody away, and kept poor loving Vanessa at a distance. A story people would believe because Vanessa knew how to tell it. After that, I started noticing little shifts. An aunt who used to thank me now sounded short on the phone. A cousin asked, why don't you let Vanessa help more? One of mom's church friends stopped by and looked around the house like she was inspecting it. Then she said, Vanessa says you're under a lot of stress. The way she said it made my stomach turn. Not concern. Judgment, like she was checking whether I was stable enough to be trusted. Then Derek left. That part still hurts, even now. He came by one Friday night with takeout and that careful face people wear when they're about to break your heart but want credit for being kind about it. Mom had fallen asleep early, so we sat on the back porch. He put the food down and said, I can't do this anymore. I already knew what he meant. Not us, exactly. This life. This constant waiting room feeling. The half-packed apartment. The canceled plans. The way every conversation had turned into medications, appointments, insurance, and fear. I'm trying, I said. I know. No, I said. You don't. He rubbed his forehead. Lena, you've made your choice. That sentence hit harder than I expected. My choice. Yes, I stared at him. My mother is sick. And I'm sorry, he said quickly. I am. But you moved out of our life without even admitting it. I wanted to scream at him that my sister was 15 minutes away and somehow still free to go to dinners and birthdays and date nights while I was the one drowning. But I was too tired. Too tired to explain something a decent person should have understood already. So I just asked, are you leaving? He nodded. Then, almost like he was trying to comfort me, he said, maybe when things calm down. I stood up so fast the porch chair scraped. Don't. Lena, don't say that to me like I'm some option you can come back to later. His face changed then. A little defensive, a little guilty. I didn't mean it like that. But you did. He left with the food. That was the same week Vanessa posted a photo of herself holding mom's hand with the caption, some of us don't get to walk away when things get hard. I saw it at 11:40 p.m. while folding towels. I just stared at my phone. At first I thought maybe I was reading it wrong. Then I looked at the comments. You are such a strong daughter. Your mom is lucky to have you. Not everyone steps up, but you always do. And the one that made my hands shake, I heard your sister bailed. Shameful. Vanessa had liked that comment, liked it. I sat on the edge of the bed and felt this weird calm settle over me. Not peace, not forgiveness, just calm. The kind that comes right before you stop, hoping someone will suddenly become better. The next morning, I started keeping records. Nothing dramatic, I just got organized. Every grocery receipt, every medication refill, every appointment summary, every text from Vanessa canceling at the last minute. Every time she said she'd come and didn't. Every time she asked me for access to something that had to do with mom's money or papers. I made a folder on my laptop, then a second backup folder. Then I bought a cheap notebook and started writing dates by hand too. Part of me felt crazy for doing it. The other part knew I was already too late. A few days after that, mom had a better morning than usual. She was sitting at the table eating oatmeal, looking almost like herself. The light from the window was hitting her face, and for 1 second I saw my real mother again. Not the confused version. Not the frightened one. Just mom. She looked at me and said, you look tired, baby. My throat tightened. I'm okay. She reached out and touched my hand. You always say that when you're not. I looked down because I knew if I met her eyes, I would cry. Then she asked very softly, is Vanessa angry with you? That made me look up. What? Mom frowned like she was reaching through fog. She talks strange, she said. Like you did something bad. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. Mom squeezed my hand and whispered, you were always the one who stayed. I had to turn away then and pretend I was rinsing a spoon because tears were already spilling down my face. That should have comforted me. Instead, it scared me. Because if mom noticed Vanessa's tone, then Vanessa wasn't even trying that hard to hide it anymore. A week later, the real punch landed. I got a call from my Aunt Teresa, mom's older sister. Her voice was tight. Lena, she said, I think we need to talk. Okay. Vanessa says you're trying to put your mother in a home and sell the house. For a second, I actually forgot how to speak. Then I laughed because the lie was so huge it didn't even feel real. What? She says mom has been asking for her. She says you don't let visitors come by unless you approve it. I sat down slowly at the kitchen table. Aunt Teresa, I have never said I want to sell this house. Well, Vanessa is very upset. Vanessa is a liar. There was silence on the line. I had never said that out loud before. Not like that. Not to family. Then my aunt sighed. She says, you're overwhelmed, maybe not thinking clearly. That did it. That was the sentence that told me how bad it had gotten. Vanessa wasn't just painting me as selfish. She was painting me as unstable. I took a deep breath and said, come over tomorrow. What? Come over tomorrow around noon and bring whoever is worried. Anybody who thinks I'm abusing control over mom or pushing people away. Bring them. Aunt Teresa sounded confused. What are you talking about? I'm talking about everybody hearing the same thing at the same time. When I hung up, my hands were shaking so badly I had to sit on them. I heard mom moving in the hallway and forced myself to stand. She looked at me and asked, bad news. I smiled the way daughters do when they don't want their mothers to carry one more thing. No, just family. She nodded like that explained everything. And honestly, it did. The next day felt like waiting for a storm. I cleaned the living room, set out water glasses, made tea nobody would drink. At 11:20, Vanessa texted me, heard you're causing drama now. Real mature. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I typed back, no drama, just conversation. She replied almost instantly. You really want to do this in front of mom? That made me pause. Because suddenly I knew she thought mom would protect her. Or maybe she thought mom wouldn't understand enough to say anything at all. Either way, Vanessa sounded confident. That was useful. At 11:57, Aunt Teresa arrived first, then our cousin Neil, then one of mom's church friends, Mrs. Dalton, who had absolutely no business being there, but apparently Vanessa had been talking to her too. Vanessa came last. She walked in wearing cream-colored pants and a soft blue blouse, looking like she was about to host a brunch. She kissed mom on the cheek. Hi, sweetheart. Mom smiled weakly. Then Vanessa turned to me and gave me that same grocery store smile. Small, polite, deadly. What is all this? She asked. I looked at everyone gathered in the living room. At their worried faces. Their doubtful faces. At the way nobody looked at me like they trusted me fully anymore. Then I said, I thought it was time we all stopped doing this in pieces. Vanessa sat down and crossed her legs. Doing what? I stayed standing, all the side conversations, the comments, the concerns, the lies. Aunt Teresa shifted uncomfortably. Vanessa let out a little breathy laugh. Oh my God, Lena. No, I said. You don't get to do that. Not today. Her expression hardened just a little. Mrs. Dalton clasped her purse and said, maybe we should all calm down. I am calm, I said, and I was. That was the strange part. I was calmer than I had been in months. Maybe because I was done trying to be believed without evidence. I picked up the folder from the coffee table. A plain brown folder. Nothing dramatic. Just paper. Vanessa's eyes flicked to it, then back to me. What's that? She asked. Just dates, I said. Receipts, appointment logs, messages, medication schedules. Notes from the doctor. Times you said you were coming and didn't. Vanessa's face didn't change, but I saw her blink once. Only once. Then she laughed again. Are you serious right now? Very. You've been keeping records on me. I've been keeping records on mom's care. Neil frowned. Lena, this is getting weird. I turned to him. You think this is weird because you haven't been here. That shut him up. Vanessa stood up then, all smooth anger and wounded pride. This is exactly what I've been talking about, she said, turning to the room instead of me. She's become paranoid. Controlling. She treats everyone like an enemy. I looked around, and that was the moment I realized something that hurt more than any lie. Some of them believed her. Not all the way. Not fully. But enough. Enough to hesitate. Enough to wonder if maybe the exhausted daughter keeping folders and records was the unstable one, while the polished sister with tears in her eyes was just trying to help. Vanessa saw it too. You could tell. Her shoulders relaxed. She thought she had them. Then she took a deep breath and said, I didn't want to say this in front of mom, but somebody has to protect her. My jaw clenched. Protect her from what? From you making decisions alone. I opened the folder. My hands were steady now. I haven't made a single legal or medical decision without documenting it. Do you want to start with the messages where you refuse to come to her neurology visit, or the ones where you ask me if your name was still on her insurance paperwork? Vanessa's face went pink. That is not what this is about. No, I said. It's about you telling people I abandoned Mom while I've been sleeping in the next room for 8 months. I never said abandoned. I looked at her. Then at Aunt Teresa, then at Mrs. Dalton. Nobody spoke, because she had. They all knew she had. She took a step toward me and lowered her voice, teeth tight behind her smile. You need help. And from the recliner near the window, a soft, shaking voice said, no. The room went still. Not quiet. Still. The kind of still that feels like the whole world just missed a step. Vanessa turned slowly. So did everyone else. Mom was sitting straighter than she had in weeks. One hand gripping the armrest. Her eyes were watery, but clear. Not perfectly clear, not all the way, but clear enough. She looked right at Vanessa. Then she looked at me, and in a voice rough from disuse, she said, she stayed. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. Vanessa whispered Mom. But Mom wasn't done. She raised a trembling finger toward her and said, a little louder this time, you left. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Vanessa's face went white. I clutched the folder so hard the edges bent in my hand, because in that moment I knew two things. First, my sister had made one very stupid mistake. She had mistaken silence for weakness. And second, if Mom was strong enough to say that in front of everyone, then what came next was going to tear this family wide open. Nobody spoke after that. Not for a second. Not for 5 seconds. It felt longer. The whole room just sat there with Mom's words hanging in the air like smoke. She stayed. You left. Vanessa looked like someone had slapped her. Not hard. Just hard enough to make the truth show on her face. Mom, she said again, softer this time. You're confused. That was the wrong thing to say. I knew it the second it left her mouth. Because Mom's face changed, not into anger exactly, into hurt, the deep kind, the kind that comes when someone you love tries to erase you while you are still sitting right there. Mom's hand tightened on the armrest. I know my girls, she said. Her voice shook, but the words were clear. Then she looked at me. Lena makes my tea the way I like it. I felt my throat close. 2 sugars, Mom said. Not 1. Vanessa always forgets. Nobody moved. Nobody laughed. Because it was such a small detail, and somehow that made it worse. Small things are hard to fake. Small things are how you know who is really there. Vanessa swallowed. Mom, I come when I can. Mom turned her head toward her slowly. You visit, she said. She stays. There it was again. Simple, clean, final. And I watched it hit the room one person at a time. Aunt Teresa looked down at her hands. Neil shifted in his seat and rubbed the back of his neck. Mrs. Dalton suddenly seemed very interested in her purse. Vanessa, though, recovered fast. She always did. She gave a sad little shake of her head like this whole thing was just tragic and unfair. This is exactly why I didn't want a scene, she said. Mom is tired. She's upset. We should stop pushing her. I almost laughed. There it was. The pivot. Mom speaks in my favor, and suddenly Mom is too fragile to be listened to. I had seen Vanessa do versions of that our whole lives. If Mom praised her, that praise was sacred. If Mom corrected her, then Mom must be emotional or confused. Same woman, same mouth, different rules. I looked at Aunt Teresa. You heard her. Aunt Teresa gave a small nod, but it was careful, hesitant. I heard her, she said. Vanessa turned to her fast. Aunt Teresa, come on. You know this isn't fair. Mom has good days and bad days. She does, I said. Which is why I don't ask her to manage bills, medication, or legal papers alone. Vanessa snapped her eyes to me. The word legal caught her. I saw it. Just a flicker. But I saw it. And because I saw it, I knew I was finally done protecting her from the shape of her own choices. So I opened the folder. Since we're all here, I said, we might as well stop pretending this is about hurt feelings. Vanessa folded her arms. You cannot be serious. I'm very serious. I took out the first stack. Appointment logs, calendar printouts, prescription receipts. I handed them to Aunt Teresa first, then Neil, then Mrs. Dalton, because if she had time to gossip, she had time to read. These are the last 8 months, I said. Doctor visits, pharmacy trips, nights I stayed awake with Mom, home care calls, insurance notes, grocery expenses, and the dates Vanessa said she would come. Vanessa gave a cold little laugh. You're passing out paperwork now. Yes, that is insane. No, I said. It's organized. Neil looked down at the pages. At first, his expression was annoyed, then confused, then uncomfortable. Wait, he said. These dates, she canceled all these? Most of them, I said. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Because I have children and a job. And I have what? I asked. A hobby. She glared at me. I kept going. I didn't ask you to do everything. I asked you to bring medication twice, pick mom up once, and sit with her during one follow-up so I could keep my own medical appointment. Aunt Teresa was flipping pages now. Slowly. Her lips pressed tighter with each one. On one sheet, I had printed screenshots of texts. Can't make it, sorry. Something came up, running behind. You're better at this stuff anyway. I'll come Sunday. Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. Vanessa shifted her weight. Then she said, louder, so what? I wasn't perfect. That doesn't mean you get to humiliate me. That line might have worked on me a year earlier, maybe even 6 months earlier. But by then I had been too tired for too long to confuse accountability with humiliation. I said, you were telling people I abandoned mom. I said you shut people out. You liked a comment saying I bailed. You're really bringing up social media. Yes. Unbelievable, she muttered. No, I said. What's unbelievable is how confident you were. That shut her up for a second. Just a second. Then she turned back to the room with tears in her eyes so sudden and perfect it would have impressed me if I hadn't known her my whole life. I've been trying, she said. I've been under so much pressure. And now she's making me look like a monster because she needs control over everything. That word again. Control. She loved that word. It let her turn structure into cruelty, truth into obsession, evidence into sickness. But this time I was ready for it. I pulled one more paper from the folder. Not a receipt, not a calendar page. A letter. I held it for a moment, then set it on the coffee table between us. Vanessa saw the letterhead and went still. Actually still, not fake still, real still. Aunt Teresa leaned forward. What is that? I answered without taking my eyes off Vanessa. It's from Harlan and Pike Elder Law. Mrs. Dalton looked up. An attorney? Yes. Vanessa spoke too fast. Why would you take mom to an attorney without me? I didn't take her without you. I told you about the appointment. You said, and I quote, law offices make me anxious. Just text me if I need to sign anything. Aunt Teresa looked at Vanessa. Vanessa said nothing. I continued. 3 months ago, on one of mom's clearer days, after her doctor documented that she understood what she was signing, mom updated her legal paperwork. Nobody breathed again. Vanessa's face was pale now, not shocked exactly. More like furious that the floor had moved without her permission. Neil looked from me to the letter. What paperwork? I took a breath. Here it was. The thing I had kept quiet because I still, stupidly, hoped we could get through this without turning family into a courtroom. Medical power of attorney, I said. Financial power of attorney. Emergency care authority. And the house transfer instructions in the event of long-term care. Mrs. Dalton actually gasped. Aunt Teresa whispered, Lena. Vanessa found her voice. This is disgusting. I looked at her. Is it? You manipulated her? Did I? You did this behind my back. I invited you. She didn't know what she was signing. At that, Mom spoke again. I did. Vanessa jerked toward her. Mom was tired now. I could see it. The effort was costing her. But she still looked more awake than I had seen her in weeks. She frowned at Vanessa like she was looking at someone she almost didn't recognize. I asked, Mom said. Vanessa stared. Asked for what? Mom's voice dropped, but the words were still there. For peace. That one hurt the room. You could feel it. I saw Aunt Teresa close her eyes, because everybody understood what Mom meant. She had not chosen me because I was louder. She had chosen me because I was steady, because I showed up. Because when a person is sick and frightened and embarrassed and losing pieces of themselves, the one who brings peace is the one they trust. Vanessa started crying for real then. Not pretty crying. Angry crying. That's not fair, she said. I'm her daughter too. Mom gave the saddest little smile. You are, she said, so act like it. Vanessa sat down like her knees had given out. I didn't feel victorious. Not in that flashy movie way. I felt tired, relieved, a little, but mostly sad. Because once truth enters a room like that, nothing goes back to how it was before. Neil cleared his throat. So, what exactly does this mean? I turned to him. It means I'm legally responsible for Mom's medical decisions if she can't make them herself. It means I'm allowed to manage her bills and protect her accounts. It means no one gets to pressure her into signing anything or removing anything from this house. I let that last part sit there. Vanessa looked up sharply. There it was, the real center of it. Not the gossip, not the victim act, not even the social media posts. Money. Not because Mom was rich. She wasn't. But the house was paid off, and in this town, that meant something. especially if you had maxed out credit cards, a husband who drifted in and out of business ideas, and a lifestyle built on looking more stable than you were. I had not known for sure at first. I only suspected. Then 2 months earlier, while looking for Mom's insurance card in the office drawer, I had found a pink notice addressed to Vanessa. Past due. Final warning. Not Mom's name. Vanessa's. Same week, Vanessa started asking more questions about deeds and paperwork. Same week, jewelry from Mom's dresser began to go missing. Just small pieces. A bracelet. 2 rings. A brooch that had belonged to our grandmother. The kind of items people hope no one tracks because grief makes everybody tired and memory makes everyone uncertain. I didn't accuse her then. I installed cameras instead. Tiny ones. Nothing dramatic. One in the office, one near the back hall cabinet where Mom kept important papers. I had told myself it was for safety. Partly it was. But not only. Aunt Teresa was looking at me carefully now. There's more, she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. Yes. Vanessa stood up so fast the coffee table rattled. I am not doing this. No, I said quietly. You already did it, she pointed at me. You always have to win. That made me laugh a little, though there was no humor in it. Vanessa, I have been cleaning our mother's sheets at 3 in the morning. Do you really think this feels like winning? Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. This is because of the will, she said. Aunt Teresa looked confused. What will? And there it was, the mistake, Vanessa's second stupid mistake of the day. Because I had never mentioned Mom's will. I had mentioned transfer instructions for care, not the will, not inheritance. Vanessa realized it too late. The room caught it before she could pull it back. Neil frowned. How do you know what's in the will? Vanessa went red. I don't. You just said, I said if there is one. I didn't say anything. I just walked to the sideboard drawer, took out my laptop, and placed it on the table. Vanessa's whole body went tight. Aunt Teresa looked at me. Lena. You all thought I was unstable, I said. Controlling. Maybe even abusive. So I decided if this day ever came, I wasn't going to stand here begging to be believed. My fingers moved over the keyboard. I opened a folder, then a video. No sound at first. Just the date in the corner. 3 weeks earlier, the office camera. Vanessa entering the room alone while I was outside helping Mom into the car. She went straight to the file cabinet. Knew exactly which drawer, exactly which folder. She flipped through papers quickly, angrily, then took photos with her phone. In the next clip from another day, she opened Mom's jewelry box in the bedroom. She lifted out the gold bracelet, paused, looked toward the door, then slipped it into her purse. Mrs. Dalton made a small shocked sound. Neil said, Jesus. Aunt Teresa just stared. Vanessa lunged toward the laptop. You were recording me. I closed the screen before she could grab it and stood up. Yes. You crazy. Finish that sentence, I said. She stopped. I had not raised my voice. I had not stepped toward her, but something in me must have changed enough for her to hear it. Maybe it was because for the first time in our lives, I was not trying to keep the peace. I was just standing in the truth and letting her crash into it. Vanessa looked around the room. No one came to her rescue. Not Aunt Teresa, not Neil, not Mrs. Dalton. That was when panic finally showed on her face. Real panic. Ugly and human. It wasn't like that, she said. I was checking to make sure things were safe. You put a bracelet in your purse. I was borrowing it. For what? She said I could. Mom whispered, no. So quiet. Still enough. Vanessa closed her eyes. I could almost see her trying to build a lie fast enough to stand in. But lies need witnesses, and hers were leaving her one by one. Aunt Teresa stood up slowly. Did you tell people your sister abandoned your mother? Vanessa looked at her with wet, furious eyes. I was upset. That is not an answer. I said things. Did you say she was trying to sell the house? Silence, Vanessa, Aunt Teresa said again, and this time her voice had steel in it. Yes, Vanessa snapped. Fine. Yes, I said it. Because nobody listens unless something sounds urgent. I looked at her. There it was at last, the truth wearing its real face. Not concern, not confusion, control, attention, fear of not being chosen, fear of not being centered. Aunt Teresa looked like she might cry herself. Your mother is sick, she said. Your sister is drowning, and this is what you did. Vanessa wiped at her face. You all act like I'm evil. I was scared. Of what? I asked. She turned on me with a bitterness so old I suddenly understood this had not started with Mom. It had started years earlier. Maybe always. Of you, she said. You always end up being the good one, the strong one, the one everybody trusts. Do you have any idea what that feels like? That hit me in a strange place, not because it excused anything. It didn't. But because for a second, I saw her clearly. My older sister. The one who had been praised for charm and beauty her whole life. The one who had maybe built herself around being adored. And now our mother was sick, and I was the one she reached for at night. I was the one with the keys, the calendars, the calm. I was the one the lawyer spoke to, not because I took it, because I earned it. And Vanessa could not bear the difference. I said quietly, "It feels like responsibility." She stared at me, then looked away. What happened next was not dramatic. That's the part people always expect when they hear a story like this. They expect screaming, a slap, someone thrown out in the rain. It was smaller than that, more ordinary, which is how real consequences usually arrive. I took out my phone and called Mr. Pike, Mom's attorney. Not because I needed permission, because I wanted witnesses to hear exactly how calm I was. He answered on the second ring. "Mr. Pike," I said, "this is Lena Mercer. I'm with family right now, and I need to confirm something on speaker." "Of course." I looked at Vanessa once before I pressed the button. "Can you confirm that my mother, Ellen Mercer, signed her medical and financial power of attorney while under physician certified capacity review?" His voice came clear through the room. "Yes, she did. I personally reviewed the documents with her, and her physician's letter is attached in the file. Can you also confirm that she requested account monitoring after concerns about pressure and missing personal property?" A pause. Then, yes, Vanessa sat down again like someone had cut her strings. I thanked him and ended the call. Nobody said a word for a long time. Then Aunt Teresa turned to Vanessa. "Give back whatever you took." Vanessa looked up, wild-eyed. "It's not here. Then where is it?" "At home," Neil muttered. "Unbelievable." Mrs. Dalton, who had been so eager to attend this little family judgment meeting, stood up in a rush. "I think I should go." I looked at her and said, "Before you do, there's one more thing." She froze. I didn't enjoy this part, but I didn't avoid it either. "You repeated things about me around town," I said. "I'm not asking for an apology. I'm asking for correction." Her face turned red. "I never meant." "I know," I said. "That's what makes gossip so dangerous." She nodded quickly. Too quickly. But it was enough. By evening, 3 people had called to check in. By the next morning, 2 of those same people had somehow heard that there had been a misunderstanding. Funny how fast stories move when the direction changes. Vanessa left that day without another word to me, but not before Aunt Teresa made her empty her purse on the kitchen table. Lipstick, wallet, receipts, Mom's ring, just one ring, thin gold with a tiny blue stone. Mom stared at it like it had come back from the dead. Vanessa burst into tears again then, the real kind, messy, broken. I was going to bring it back. Nobody answered. Because what can anyone say to that? A week later, Aunt Teresa went with me to Vanessa's house. Not to fight, not to shame her. Just to collect what belonged to Mom. The bracelet was in a bathroom drawer. The brooch was in a little gift bag in the closet. The other ring had already been pawned. Vanessa sat at the kitchen table while we looked. She didn't stop us. Didn't help either. She just kept saying, "I don't know why I did this. I believed that and didn't believe it." Sometimes people know exactly why they do something. They just don't like how ugly the answer sounds out loud. I didn't press charges. A lot of people will probably think I should have. Maybe I should have. But Mom begged me not to make it public. And at that point, the thing I wanted most was not revenge. It was peace. Real peace. Not the fake peace where one person does all the swallowing and everyone else calls that maturity. Real peace. The kind that costs truth up front and gives quiet back later. So here's what I did instead. I had the attorney send Vanessa a formal notice revoking her access to the house, the accounts, and any decision-making role. Visits with Mom had to be scheduled. Never alone. Always documented. If she wanted to rebuild trust, she could do it slowly and honestly or not at all. That was the revenge, if you want to call it that. Not public ruin. Not screaming. Not a dramatic speech online. Structure, boundaries, paper trails, consequences that did not need my anger to hold them up. And for the first time in my life, I stopped explaining myself to people who were committed to misunderstanding me. That part changed everything. When a cousin texted, "Family is family," I wrote back, "Exactly. That's why I protected ours." When Derek called 2 weeks later after hearing some version of what happened and said, "I didn't realize how bad it was," I told him, "You didn't ask." He got quiet after that. Then he said, "I made a mistake." Maybe he did. But not all mistakes deserve a second turn. I wished him well and ended the call. Mom had good days and bad days after that. Mostly bad, if I'm being honest. But the house got lighter. That's the only way I know to say it. Lighter. No more surprise visits that felt like inspections. No more whispers at church. No more missing things. No more standing in the kitchen bracing for the sound of Vanessa's car and the performance that came with it. One afternoon, about a month later, Mom and I were sitting on the porch with iced tea. She was more tired than usual, hands thin, skin almost paper in the light, but peaceful. She looked out at the yard and said, "You always were stronger than people knew." I smiled a little. I didn't feel strong. That's not the same thing. Then she said something I still think about all the time. Loud people look powerful when the room is weak. I turned to her. She kept looking at the yard. But quiet people, she said, they change the room. That was Mom. Even near the end, she could still say one sentence and put your whole heart in order. Vanessa did come back eventually. Not right away. 3 months later, she asked Aunt Teresa if she could visit. She had started therapy, apparently. She brought the pawn receipt and money to replace the ring she sold. She looked smaller, somehow. Not physically, just stripped down. Like life had finally taken away her ability to charm her way out of herself. I let her in. Mom was having one of her clearer afternoons. Vanessa sat by her bed and cried almost the whole time. Not loud, not for effect, just quietly. She kept saying, "I'm sorry, Mom, I'm sorry." Mom listened, then took her hand. And because my mother was still my mother, even after everything, she squeezed it. Forgiveness is strange like that. It doesn't always arrive as trust. Sometimes it arrives as mercy. Vanessa looked at me before she left. Really looked at me. No smile, no performance. Just shame. "I hated you for being better at this," she said. I shook my head. "I was never better than you, Vanessa. I just stayed." She cried harder when I said that. Maybe because it was true. Maybe because deep down she had always known it. Mom passed 6 months later, at home, in her own bed, with me holding one hand and Aunt Teresa holding the other. Vanessa was there too, standing by the window, crying so hard she could barely breathe. And no matter what had happened before, I was glad she made it in time. After the funeral, a lot of people came up to me with those soft, guilty faces. The faces people wear when they realize they helped build a lie because it was easier than asking hard questions. Some apologized directly. Some didn't. Some just hugged me too long. I let them do what they needed to do. Grief makes people want absolution almost as much as it makes them want casseroles. I didn't give speeches. I didn't correct every version of the story. I didn't need to. By then, people knew. Truth had done its work. It always takes longer than lies. But it lasts longer too. As for the house, I didn't sell it right away. I couldn't. Not because of legal drama. Because of the teacups in the cabinet. The dent in the hallway wall from when Vanessa and I used to race inside as kids. The rosebush mom swore she could bring back every spring even when it looked dead. I kept the house for a year, cleaned it out slowly, room by room, memory by memory. And when I found the notebook where I'd written all those dates and receipts and missed visits and medication times, I sat on the floor and cried harder than I had at the funeral. Because every line in that notebook was proof of love. Not glamorous love, not performative love. The boring kind, the tired kind. The love that remembers pill schedules. The love that buys mattress covers at midnight. The love that notices 2 sugars instead of 1. That's the kind people overlook because it doesn't photograph well, but it's the kind that stays. That whole mess taught me something I wish more people understood. Being quiet does not mean you are weak. Being kind does not mean you are blind. And just because someone tells the story first does not mean it belongs to them. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is keep records. Stay calm. Let people underestimate you. And then, when the moment comes, say almost nothing at all. Just the truth. Just enough. Because the truth spoken at the right time does not need decoration. It speaks for itself.